Alabama and Tennessee's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international. And oh, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Tuesday, Taco Tuesday, because it's often about the food. Hit it, man.
But more importantly, y'all know what today is, right? It's Taco Tuesday.
Yeah, it is Taco Tuesday. Oh, man, I think I might have tacos for dinner tonight. But anyway, the bottom line is JP's pushing buttons on the board. Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good enough. How about that?
I'm not liking the overcasts and all this week, but
No, but have you noticed the leaves have all been changing colors?
I know it's kind of like fall, like late fall, early winter, just kind of hit all this week.
Look at that Japanese maple outside the window,
Yeah.
bright red. Excuse us while we have a moment
Sorry.
here just talking to each other. But yeah, it's like the weather has suddenly shifted, and it's like a nice rainy fall. Right when I was getting work done at my house that can't get done right now.
Yeah.
All right, hey, listen, we got a great show laid on for you. Come on up at the top of the beginning of hour number 2. Alabama Secretary of State Wes Allen, who is also a candidate for lieutenant governor, will be calling in. So stand by for that one. You're going to want to hear it. I'm gonna hope we can get a chance to talk with him how he feels about A.J. McCarron jumping into the same race out of nowhere when he's maybe even never registered to vote in the state of Alabama before. So yeah, coming up beginning of hour number 2, Secretary of State Wes Allen will be on the show. Then I got a triple dipper filled up with stuff. So hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right. The Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate. Oh, boy. I got stories from in and around and amongst us. You know what that means? I've got to take a look at what the news is in our own backyard. And I'm going to do a batch of home fries. Oh, yeah. Home fries cooking up on number 1 of the Triple Dipper. Number 2, I didn't get to it yesterday, and I added more to it today. Trump versus the world. Y'all, have you ever seen foreign policy on such an epic scale as what we're seeing right now? By the way, the Japanese prime minister just nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize today. So there's that. Trump versus the world. We're going to talk about what's happening on the geopolitical stage. That's number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 3, the immigration nation. It's amazing to me. And this is not just about ICE. This is going to be bigger than that. What are the things that we're seeing and dealing with, and how is the U.S. government now changing the way it does business because of what was allowed to happen with the, absolutely porous borders and the zero, degree of immigration policy during the Biden administration? It's a whole new day, a whole new era, if you will. Immigration nation, that's where we are. I'll talk about it. Number 3 on the Triple Dipper. All right, let me jump on into today's Right Side Way opening monologue. I'll remind you guys, as always, that Stan McDonald, a law firm partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee in Huntsville, a 30-year veteran in the practice of law, a long-time conservative. Stan McDonald is your daily sponsor of the Right Side Way monologue, and I'll tell you more about Stan here momentarily. All right, go ahead and settle in, y'all. I'm talking folks, fans, and friends. You may want to have a seat because I'm about to give you a clear understanding of what it's like to live in America, because this is what I call the land of the ultra soft, smooth tear poo paper. You heard me, poo paper. All right, so every once in a while, I realize how good we've got it here in the U.S., right? I mean, like many of you, I am fed up with illegal immigration, but as for why there is illegals flooding into the great land of opportunity, well, I may not like it, but I also get it. It's because we're a nation that literally has everything. I mean, all of our needs and our way too many of our wants. If you spend a little time in a foreign country, you will quickly find that the rest of the world knows what we have and what they don't have. I spent a year living among the Afghan people. I didn't see a toilet for pretty much the entire time. But then again, the vast majority of Afghan citizens have never seen a toilet in their entire lives. You know what's odd, though, is that much of the world can say the same. And those that have indoor plumbing, they often refer to our version of a porcelain throne as the Western toilet. Did you know that? I didn't know that. We Westerners, especially Americans, we prefer to sit on our crappers. We have big ones, tall ones, and we have loos of many colors. We have toilets that sing and toilets that wash and toilets that cleanse themselves. The poo industry is big business in the U.S. Are we spoiled? Maybe so. But I got to tell you, in the world of poo business, Ain't nobody has the better market than the manufacturers of toilet paper. You heard me. Toilet paper, the most disposable of all disposables. I mean, the thing you have to have and yet don't want to talk about. It's poo paper. Poo paper is big doings in America. If you get down to it, the poo paper even has its own version of math. I mean, think about it. Where else in the world are you allowed to get away with math that says things like, try the new 144 XL where 12 equals 96? I mean, what does that even mean? But it's on the cover of a Charmin brand. That's worse than adding up votes in a California election. There's a whole world of memes out there that are devoted to people trying to figure out toilet paper math. I wish my checkbook could brag that it was more than it appeared like poo paper companies do with their poo paper packaging. I mean, think about what happened during COVID, y'all. There was a run on grocery stores. Did the panicans wipe out the milk and bread? Nope. It was eggs and toilet paper. You couldn't get an egg or a square of squeezable poo paper to save your life unless you bought it on the black market from some kind of poo paper hoarder. It was nearly the downfall of Western society. No poo paper. But recently I saw something announced with great fanfare that sort of crystallized our potty antics in such a way that I had to give it some study. Did you know, I kid you not, did you know that in the US alone, toilet paper manufacturing is a $16 billion per year revenue generator? $16 billion a year. That's a whole lot of squeezably soft squares. Recent market studies, and yes, there are people who make a living studying toilet paper. Recent market studies indicate that the average American consumes about 24 rolls of toilet paper every year. That's 2 per month. Some estimates put it closer to 85 rolls per year, but I feel certain that's indicative of locations who have high fiber diets or eat a lot of fried foods or Mexican. Anyway, toilet paper's big doings in America is what I'm trying to say. My question is, are we spoiled? I mean, think about it. In America, there's a whole industry that surrounds toilet paper. All the rolls are the same size by some agreed upon standard. So if you go to the hardware store to buy a new toilet paper holder, you don't have to worry about buying the wrong size holder. Research dollars have been committed to finding the best ways to make toilet paper softer, stronger, less likely to shred and to leave little dingleberries. More squares per roll, more rolls per pack, more packs on the shelves. The world is their oyster and toilet paper is what wraps it up. But wait, because it gets better. Because the makers of America's rolled comfort have hit a new milestone. Just when you thought that poo paper technology had peaked, just when you thought, because I'm sure you think about this because the people that study the poo industry, they all say you think about this. Just when you thought that there was no other way that the makers of American Laboratories pillow soft poo rags on rolls could bring nothing else to bear on our bareness, the latest and the greatest innovation has actually arrived. Just recently, Charmin issued press releases announcing that it had broken the code on what people really need in poo paper. No kidding. There were articles and press releases and new packaging emblazoned with the branding of the latest and greatest effort to ensure that Americans never have to worry about their poo paper being substandard ever again. Charmin announced its newest line of what it calls, brace yourself, ultra soft smooth tear toilet paper. Now I get the soft thing, right? I mean, foreign travels for me have proven the worth of good old American toilet paper. Some countries, y'all, I swear, I don't know how those people could walk around knowing the level of chafing they had to have endured during their morning constitutionals for what they use as wax paper in their boudoirs. But ultra soft, okay. I mean, are there really levels in which one can claim they've moved from soft to ultra soft? But it's not really the soft aspect, though, that got me. It's the smooth tear. Because apparently it was hard to tear off squares from the average roll of toilet paper before, which I find to be quite the indictment on American society, to be honest. Apparently, according to Charmin press releases, consumers had actually been asking for Charmin to come up with some way for them to be able to tear a square while not leaving a little tail hanging there from their roll. They've actually asked. Procter & Gamble, the makers of Charmin, they're very proud, and rightfully so. A guy named Rob Reinerman, he's the vice president of Procter & Gamble. He said, this is his quote. He said, "This is something the toilet paper category has not seen. And we spent more than 5 years perfecting the technology and design behind it." 5 years. 5 years spent deciding how best to come up with wavy perforations that tear off neatly without creating wasted little poo paper stringers. According to one article I read, and by the way, there were many, Charmin has actually announced, and here's their quote, "It's the first time in a century that the brand has changed the shape of its tissue. Charmin had been secretly letting customers test the new rolls," which makes you wonder, how do you get that gig? But anyway, test their new rolls. And the article went on to say, the company says the top customer complaint over the years was the uneven tears from the square shape. The article actually concluded, y'all, by making sure that you know that straight perforation toilet paper will still be available in the ultra strong and the ultra gentle toilet paper and in what they call the forever roll. And now I'm really curious, what exactly is a Charmin forever roll? That being said, I must admit, on the one hand, I admire the fact that the private sector, without any government subsidies or green energy regulatory revisions, appears to have built a better mousetrap. Charmin didn't get any grants from USAID or funding through the Inflation Reduction Act. I really don't mind that either. And I would say that's exactly what the free market is designed to be. I mean, poo paper just got better and American citizens are better off for it, and we didn't have to pay for it. At the same time, you got to admit, this is an absolutely first world solution to what can only be called a first world problem. But that, my friends, is my ultimate point. You see, you live in a country that has so much going for it that it can focus millions of research dollars on how to make a better square of toilet paper, and nobody even blinks an eye. I mean, don't ever take for granted where you live. Y'all, we live in a country where the flip of a switch lights up a room, where potholes in your paved roads are not normal, where laws can ensure that you speak freely, and where, despite our urban growth, we still have countless acres of natural beauty. We are indeed, as a nation, a city on a hill and a beacon of hope, and the rest of the world actually wants what we have. They want some of that first world. They would love to have our first world problems, because, y'all, I'll be honest with you, first world problems beat third world solutions hands down. In America, the average citizen has a car, can live stream their TV, a smartphone, access to retail shopping that would blow the mind of the average citizens of 90% of the world. You have the right to assemble, to vote, to worship, to speak. You have the right to due process. You have the right to own land. American citizens have access to schools where kids don't sit on the floor. If we turn on the tap in our kitchen, we actually expect clean water. Are we spoiled? I would say yes, but at the same time, I would have to add that we are truly blessed, and we should never take it for granted. Illegal immigration, like I said earlier, it's a huge problem, but the fact that people do want to come here because we are still seen as the land of opportunity, that's actually a problem wrapped up in a blessing. We'll fix the illegal immigration problem, but let's don't ever stop being a land of great promise, and don't ever take it for granted. My friends, you live in a nation where the average citizen can have toilet paper that's labeled ultra soft and smooth tear. And that, my friends, is a nation worth defending. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. Think about it, man. Ultra soft, smooth tear poo paper. Y'all, have you ever heard of anything more ridiculous and yet so amazing at the same time? A clear indication that we live in the greatest country on the face of the earth, where we can actually spend time and effort to make sure we can just, have ultra soft, smooth tear poo paper. Bill Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. The interview we just had with Mike Durant, author of In the Company of Heroes, the pilot who was shot down in Black Hawk Down. He became a national icon, an international icon, really, as images of him being held captive in Somalia were transmitted around the world. The way he tells his story, though, is as amazing as his story. So sit back, enjoy your time, hear about things that you're going to think about for the rest of your life after this discussion we're going to have with Mike Durant on the Just Right podcast. Yeah, let's do a show.
1, 2, 3, hey!
Hey, Mike Durant, thanks for being here today.
My pleasure.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I'm honored to have you. And listen, I'm going to run through just a quick intro of who you are so folks know who I got sitting across from me. All
Sure.
right? Some of this is going to be unpacked in more detail, but I know for a fact you were born in New Hampshire, but you call Alabama home, have for a number of years. 22 years active military. First enlisted, I think, in 79?
You got it.
Weren't you a Spanish linguist?
I was.
Yeah.
And don't ask me to speak Spanish. They taught us to, the school that I went to, the focus was to just be able to understand it, not speak it. So I can still understand a little bit, but I'm not a very good speaker.
Did some intercept work down there in Panama, right?
I did.
Yeah. I got family ties there. My grandfather was post commander. It was at Corzal, I think it was one of the, years ago. Became a warrant officer in 83, which I still don't understand the warrant officer mafia. I never knew whether you guys got saluted or what was going on with that. But anyway, warrant officer in 83, flight school, Fort Rucker. 5 years later, you were selected for the elite 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the Night Stalkers, which we're going to talk about in a lot of detail. 3 distinguished flying crosses, Bronze Star with a V device, Purple Heart, and fairly rare in modern times, a Prisoner of War medal. And then you retired as a CW4, am I right? Chief Warrant Officer 4?
That's correct. 2 DFCs.
2 DSCs.
Yeah.
Well, okay, just 2. Got your undergrad and your master's from Embry-Riddle, is that right?
That's correct.
And built a successful defense contracting firm, Pinnacle Solutions, which you've retired from now. And you're married, and most importantly, you've had 6 kids.
We do.
Got your own basketball team.
Yeah, with some bench.
Well, good enough. Well, hey, thanks for being on the Just Right podcast. Appreciate you.
Again, my pleasure. I do always enjoy time spent with you. I think, we certainly have some common history, and you get it. And it's kind of nice to talk to people who get it, because when you talk to people who don't get it, it's a little bit frustrating, and you got to get drilled down into areas you feel like it's tedious, but with you, that's not the case.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. And we'll just have to make sure we don't slip into acronyms or something like that.
Well, that is easy to do, and then you can lose a lot of folks that way. But I've gotten pretty good at trying to avoid that.
Well, let me ask you this. I want folks to get to know who you are as much as your story, because your story is amazing. I've got your book sitting right here in the Company of Heroes. I read it years ago, and I've had a copy on my shelf. In fact, I think I told you before the show, my son nabbed it. He's stationed down at Benning, so he's got it with him, so I had to get another copy for today. But let me ask you, how did it start with you in the military? You're a kid in New Hampshire. Why the military? I mean, what happened there that said, that's where I want to lead my life?
So, I characterize myself as a blue-collar kid. I mean, working parents, we were certainly not poor, but we weren't really well off either, and never saw myself as necessarily college material. I did fairly well in school when I tried, but I wasn't necessarily motivated to go to college. And I lived in a paper mill town, and a lot of people went to work in the mill. And there's nothing wrong with that. We need people to do that. That's, if that's what you want to do. But I just couldn't see myself doing that for the rest of my life. And when I was about 14, and it's about the time you start thinking about, what am I going to do when I get out of college? Doesn't keep you up at night, but, you start pondering that kind of stuff. I had a major turning point in my life. I went on a helicopter flight with a friend of the family.
No kidding.
His name was Joe Brigham. He was a warrant officer in the National Guard. He also had his own business. And as I found out later, I wasn't the only young teenager that he ever did this with. He took a few of us up that he wanted to try to inspire, and it absolutely impacted me. I mean,
No kidding.
we're flying over Mount Washington, which is the highest mountain in the Northeast. It's 6,280 feet. We're basically hovering. The aircraft was kind of primitive by today's standards, I guess I would say. It was kind of a glass bubble. If you remember the MASH helicopters, similar to that. And it's like you're just floating in space. And I'm looking at, like, again, I'd flown on a small airplane before, but never anything like this experience. And I said, you could actually do this as a job? And he says, yeah. And he said, you could, if you join the Army, they'll send.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. Poo paper, baby. That's where you live. The land of ultra soft, smooth tear poo paper.
I got to give you props. That was a funny and insightful way to think about, there's actually a lot of blessings we have in America we probably don't even think about, like poo paper.
Like if you could live in a country that does that much for poo paper, you got it going on.
I know. You gotta be, how comfortable you have to be to go to that level of like engineering poo paper.
I'm just saying. It boggles the mind when you stop and think about it. And the private sector did it without a government grant, as far as we know.
As far as we know.
Know. Unless they can find some way to make it a green energy thing, then I'm sure they got money for that. All right. Hey, listen, I got to tell you about Stan McDonald. Oh, yeah. Attorney Stan McDonald. Mm-hmm. Partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee, 30-year veteran in the practice of law, long-time conservative. I mean, wow. Dude's been in the mix, in the fray, in the trenches for all the things that right side ruffians care about for decades. Stan McDonald is also, by the way, a really good attorney. I know the guy personally. I think the world of him. Stan McDonald has represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He can stand up for you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to say, and I always do, if Stan McDonald's on your side, you're going to have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries are going to have no greater foe. So that being said, y'all, I'm going to give you his contact information. You ready? I'm going to give you a phone number. Stan McDonald. The law firm is Wilmer and Lee. He's an America First family man, a good attorney. Here's his number, 256-533-0202. That's 256-533-0202. And tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. And no presentation made quality legal services is ever as bad as third world poo paper. Did I say that? I don't know how that comes out. Think about what I just said. But okay, nonetheless, it works. I'm going to be stuck on poo paper all day long. As long as the poo paper's not stuck on me.
I was about to say, okay. As long as that's metaphorical, yeah. Exactly.
Text lines are way open, and I'll tell you guys too. By the way, I'm in my. Everybody knows the announcement. I think if you haven't, just to remind you, I am going through all the process, moving towards the confirmation. I have been nominated by President Trump to be the next U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Alabama. It's an incredible honor. I said before that I believe that God has opened a door and that President Trump has called. And for that reason, we're going to stop doing something that we love, which is being on the microphone every day. I say we because this is a Charlene and Phil decision together. And she'll be on with me Friday. We'll have some time in studio together because she was on one of my very first shows, obviously. We are coming up on our 39th wedding anniversary. 39 years, y'all. I don't remember not being married. I don't want to remember not being married to her. But that being said, she'll be on with me Friday. And tomorrow, we will have major doings as we announce to the world the next phase of Rightside Radio, because this show ain't going away. It's just going to change the voice of the microphone. It's been my honor to be with you for 4.5 years. You guys have made it one of the top ranked shows in the Southeast. And that has been a joy. And I can have days, even like today, by the way, which the morning was just wearing on my nerves. And I come in the studio and I start feeling better. That's part of what you guys bring to the fray. But yeah, we'll do all that. We'll talk about more. But tomorrow there will be major news, and we'll make sure you're all up to speed and get a chance to hear in studio the new voices that are joining me on the air. JP is going to be a part of it. Don't worry, he ain't going anywhere. But it's pretty cool. And there's a story behind it. And I expect tomorrow we'll be telling the story. And then I'll finish out my week. And we'll see what God does. In the meantime, we're taking a break. Text lines are open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text it, call it. We'll be right back.
Training, and you could do this as a career. And I'm like, okay, if this is a possibility for me, yeah, I'll take it. And ultimately, when I got old enough, I went and talked to the recruiter. And you probably heard the joke, a recruiter's line because their lips are moving. They have a quota. They're trying to fill certain slots.
Sure.
And there are programs that are available sometimes, and sometimes they're not. And he told me, sorry, but flight school program's not available for people coming right in off the street. You're going to have to join the military first, and then you can apply for flight school afterwards, which is all correct. But I didn't really know whether he was telling me the truth about, could I have applied to go directly to flight school? But either way, and another smart thing I did, and I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I have made some good decisions along the way, is I spoke to someone else about joining the military, and I think you and Jared had talked about this, or he did, and you don't want to just go join the military, right? There has to be a purpose to it. I mean, serving the country is noble and it's great, and we need people to do that. But for you as an individual, you should also be thinking about, what can I do with this in the life after the military?
Sure, absolutely.
And I was offered to go to, as we discussed before we got on camera, the Spanish language school in Monterey, California, to be in military intelligence. And how marketable is that? I don't know. But, I was convinced that, well, they'll send me to school for a year to learn Spanish. I'll be a military intelligence analyst. that's probably something
Sounds sexy.
worth something. Yeah. and then I can possibly apply for flight school. Okay, we'll go ahead and sign this. And it was one of those cases where I had gone off to talk to the recruiter on my own and then came back to the house. I'd already signed the paperwork. My parents had not been informed at all. And they were kind of shocked, right? But I said, I think this sounds like a pretty good deal. Let's give it a try. And then I was stunned by the reality of basic training. I just,
no kidding.
I wasn't mentally prepared for it. I just wasn't.
But who really is?
Yeah, I guess no one is.
That's back when drill sergeants could be drill sergeants.
Yes, I mean it was quite a lifestyle change. Is all I could say.
Yeah.
I mean, you're living in an open barracks with 20 guys that you've never met before from all over the country. They treat by design. They treat you like crap, right? I mean, it's probably not as bad as some of the other military training that goes on, but it's going from a high school kid with long hair and concert T-shirts on and didn't care about anything except girls and some sports. This is a radical lifestyle change. And I at that point was thinking, I have made a mistake. This is not what I thought it was going to be. And I don't know what I did think it was going to be, but it certainly shocked me to the point where I was thinking about, I don't know if I can get out of this, but if I can, I need to.
Well, was there anybody in your life like you had this warrant officer from the Guard who gave you the flight in the helicopter? But did you have any military in your family? I mean, was there anything watching it as you grew up? Like my family's been generational Army, so my son watched 3 generations before him do stuff, and then he wanted to do it.
Right.
But did you have anything like that?
They were in the Guard. My uncles were in the Guard. My father was in the Guard. But to me, that's different. I mean, you just sort of see him, go once a month. Not that the Guard isn't a great,
No,
organization, but it's just
it wasn't a full life.
right. And you still live at home. Unless you get deployed, obviously. But it was. I wasn't prepared. And I was again to the point where if I could get out of this, I need to, and was convinced that I should stay by the drill sergeant, and I did. And at that point, got like super motivated. I got like the PT award, physical training award of the whole class, and in basic training, I scored the highest, and just really got motivated that, okay, if I am going to do this, I'm going to do the best job that I possibly can. And then I went on to language school, advanced individual training, where they teach you how to actually do what you're on contract to do. And then I went to Panama, and that's where my assignment was. And I'm at that point, probably an E3 enlisted private, and working in a military intelligence unit. And
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. This show, y'all, it goes like from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. And I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. All the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. Big old patches of North Georgia, Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio. And then there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world, going to the World Wide Web, logging in on the live stream, y'all. Audio and video all at one time. Yes, indeed. Places like X, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, our website, rightside.media.org. And then, oh, by the way, there's a ton, and we can see the numbers, a ton of y'all that podcast this show after the fact. Listen, I say all that, and I do all the time. I say it all the time for the sole purpose of letting you know that no matter where you catch the show, it's appreciated. We can see it. We can tell the numbers. We know you're there, and it means the world to us. So thank you very much for that. We got comments. You got a live stream? What do you got?
Well, first I was going to say we're tracking right now. We're on pace to hit 365,000 by the end of the week, all-time downloads. So we're on track for that.
By the end of the week?
By the end of the week, yeah.
That's awesome. I remember when Boomer and I, years ago, when Boomer and I were like doing a push-up bet as to who was going to name when the number hit something like, I don't know, 150,000 or something. And it's just like, good Lord, the exponential growth has been something else.
364.6 thousand right now. So.
Holy shamoles. All right, 365 before I depart on Friday.
That'll be a great landmark, though. I think it's perfect.
That's a cool landmark.
Also, we got some comments over here. First, we got John on the YouTube saying, everybody pray for the people of Jamaica right now because Hurricane Melissa is currently hitting them really hard. So prayers for Jamaica. But also, we got Tom Boyer on the live stream saying,
Tom Boyer,
amen to your monologue on poo paper.
We we did an amazing podcast with Tom. She's got such a credible testimony, her personal story of escaping communism, coming here as a refugee. Listen, if you ever want to see that podcast, you can go to our website or our YouTube channel. It's the Just Right podcast, and it's the episode we did with Tom Boyer, who is was a Vietnamese refugee. And my goodness, what a story. I got text message, Ted from Arizona. He says, hey, Phil, congratulations on your nomination for U.S. Attorney. Thank you, sir. So I listen mostly by podcasts. We're going to miss you on each show each day, but I'm looking forward to how the Lord will use you in your new role. Ted from Arizona. He says, P.S. No one I know in Arizona misses daylight savings.
Yeah, because they were the only one that doesn't abide by it.
I would say there are times I look around and go, why are they the only one smart ones? Because there they are. And they're apparently still allowed to function.
Yeah, they haven't exploded as a state.
No.
They're still going.
They
fine.
didn't secede from the Union.
Yeah.
They weren't ostracized by the United Nations. Nothing. Roger from Madison says, when all the TP panic buying started, I bought bidets for every toilet. You're the man. Badger from Athens says, my wife loves smooth tear. I personally don't think it works as advertised, or I'm just dysfunctional at tearing it up. Nice. Roy from Hartsel says, poo paper, one of the things that you buy just to throw away, much like trash bags, but they both serve a great purpose. That would be true. Laughing emoji there is perfect. Scott from Russellville says, toilet paper puns are terrible. Get it?
Wow,
terrible. Smooth tear, terrible. But you just have to roll with them, he says.
That's good.
This is awful. Give that man, is that a womp womp or is that a laugh? What are you going to give him? You got both?
I'll give both.
Is that the dad joke sound effect?
Yeah.
Okay. David at Bucky says, Phil, right now you get either ultra soft or extra strong, but not both. I'm just waiting for them to combine the two. I know. Why would they not? I mean, don't those of us who need extra strong also deserve to be ultra soft and, I don't know, smooth tear? I want smooth tear, ultra soft, extra strong. What was that one called too? The forever roll.
The forever roll.
What does a forever roll of toilet paper even mean?
I don't know.
How do you have a forever roll?
I don't know.
Does it regenerate?
I'm not the poo paper engineer over here.
Is it like loaves and fishes? It just keeps showing up?
Guess so.
I don't know. I'm curious about this. Jeff from Indiana says, yeah, Phil, we've all become softies, even in public restrooms where they give you free toilet paper, but somebody has to pay for it. I say we do more like China, where their public restrooms require you to watch an advertisement before it spits out a few square. Does it really? It says, and 7 cents if you want some more of with the more videos. I hope that's not true.
He actually put a link to the story.
Holy cow. All right. That's just, you know what? We live in a better society.
Yeah, it's true.
And that's proof right there.
We're not monetizing public toilet paper.
That's proof right there. Clint from Tony, Alabama says, Phil, people who must complain about the way their poo paper tears to the point that the manufacturer has to spend millions of dollars on research to rectify the non-problem have way too much time on their hands and are spoiled beyond belief. By the way, you have great insight and an awesome sense of humor. Thank you for that, Clint from Tony. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Every once in a while, you got to find the lighter side of life, right? Jack from Huntsville says, some years ago, I saw an interview with Tom Hanks back when I had respect for him. It was after Saving Private Ryan. He was talking about people complaining about having a terrible day. He said that during World War II, people would lose their entire family, lose their homes, lose everything they cared for and loved, and that people need to put things into perspective. I realized that my worst day is probably better than the best day for a huge chunk of people in this world. It's true, man. You know, and I'll never forget, and this is a personal aside here, a moment of personal privilege, but that reminds me. I'll never forget coming home from my second deployment in a war zone. I'd been in Baghdad, and if any of you who went there or have family went there, you probably know what I'm talking about. I can remember going on ops. One time I spent something like 9 hours in full battle rattle on a in what I call concrete hell, and it was 128 degrees, and this is baking off the street. It took 2 IVs and a bunch of fluids to get me back to normal that night. And I remember I was home one day, and JP, you'll appreciate this. My stepmom, his grandmom, we called her Granny Ram. Granny Ram called me one day, and I was walking down the street here in Gadsden, and it was summertime, and she said, Phil Williams, what are you doing? You can hear her saying it that way, can't you?
I can, yeah.
Phil Williams, what are you doing? And I said, I am walking down the street, and it's hot, and I don't care, and nobody's shooting at me. Perspective,
yeah.
And she said, she kind of paused. She goes, that's a better day than you had last year. And I said, yes, it is.
Yep.
Yep. It's all perspective, man. Every bit of it. John from Huntsville says, Phil, I got to be honest, that monologue kind of stinks. He did say LOL.
Yeah.
He said also, and then he talks about Hurricane Melissa. Yeah, it's huge. Cat 5, 180 mile per hour winds. And then he says, by the way, JP, did you see the Dodgers win last night in a 6-hour, 39-minute game, 18 innings, ended with a home run by a former Braves player, Freddie Freeman?
No, I didn't. And it pains me to see Freddie have any success with the Dodgers. Not because of Freddie, but because he should still be a Brave. But
where are we in the series right now?
Dodgers are up 2-1.
Okay.
So they finished the game midnight Pacific time, and they got to play. So they're technically playing 2 games in one day, because they finished last game on today. So it's pretty crazy. I think he actually set the record for the longest World Series game ever.
Well, I mean, 18 innings, yeah. I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Red, the text lines are blowing up, y'all. I love it when the audience just like takes a show and runs with it. I mean, this is just like fun for me. I got some content I got to do in a minute, but nonetheless, let me get a few more of these. Red from Tony, Alabama says there's nothing more complicated than poo paper math. It's true. You look at the packaging, it makes no sense. How can you say 12 equals 96? That one doesn't. 12 equals 96. I'm sorry? What? Anyway, no, it doesn't. Jay from Killen, Alabama says, congratulations on being selected for U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Alabama. Thank you, Jay. Cameron from Decatur says, I'm sure somebody else has already stated this, but the guy that follows you is going to be like the guy that followed Nick. No, that's not true. That's not true. Nah. I'm not worried about it. You know why? Because it's already a proven thing. That's what I'm saying.
The guy that followed Nick Saban 7-1 right now too. So there you go.
Hey, Bobby from Huntsville says, I'm sure the Democrats have some way to take advantage of the Brown Energy grant, but it wouldn't be for the paper.
That's funny.
Oh my gosh. You can tell I'm a former youth pastor because I'm laughing at turds. This is awesome. All right, listen, a couple more and we got to take a break. Wiley from Gunnersville says, great monologue, Colonel. Thank you. Says, working in some of the U.S. territories in the early 90s, I quickly discovered that the boat came every 30 days and one could get most anything during the following week. Every day thereafter tapered off to having to decide if you really wanted what was left at that time while looking at the calendar to see when the next boat came in. I came back to the U.S. with a whole new appreciation for what we take for granted every day. Listen, man, we had some when I was with 20 Special Forces Group, we had some guys who came in and trained with us, and I want to say they're from Macedonia. And they were just here to, observe. But they were, they were in a position where we couldn't just let them in on everything we did because there's some OPSEC issues. So there was a lot of times when they couldn't do things, and so we had somebody who was like their escort, who would, I'm talking to JP right now, I'm talking to all y'all at the same time, who would take them around and they're in a foreign countries, they get to see stuff. They want to go see. More than once, they'd say, well, hey, we're not gonna be able to have you guys in the skiff today or in the talk. Yeah, you want to kill some time? What do y'all want to do? Could we go back and see that Walmart again? The Walmart blew them away. I mean, they're coming from a country that actually, it was not third world. It was kind of, it was not everything you might find like in Germany or something like that, but they still had stuff that they had never, a Walmart blew their minds.
Yeah, I've heard one former CIA guy talk about a similar situation where he was training with some guys from the Middle East and there was a deer running around. They said, gazelle? Is that gazelle? He goes, oh yeah, they're everywhere out here. And they go, is it tasty? And he goes, and he talked to, his boss and said, I think they want to try, one of the deer. He goes, oh yeah, no problem. About 10 minutes later, you heard, and then that night they had deer stew that night. But it's like stuff like that. Yeah, it's, it's interesting.
It is. The things we take for granted. All right, we are taking a break. I'm not taking that for granted. Taking a break right now. We'll come right back. Going to jump on into some home fries, y'all. I got more of your text messages. They're lighting up right now. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text it, call it. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Coincidentally, run across Manuel Noriega in the parking lot.
In the parking lot?
Of our, because he was an
was
MI
there a food
guy.
truck and y'all were standing in line together or what?
No, but he was a military intelligence guy. So
Oh,
I was in a military intelligence unit, and at the time, he's only probably a major or whatever, but he was already pretty well known, and he showed up, and he obviously very easy individual to identify.
You were there later.
And then
saw him
years
again,
later, we
yeah.
go back and bag him. But anyway, so I'm kind of enjoying this military intelligence job. And then one day I'm sitting on the beach, and I know this is a really long answer to your original question, but I'm sitting on the beach, and these three Hueys fly low level right over the top of us with shooters in the back and their legs out the door. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot how much I really want to do that. And so it sort of re-energized me. I applied for flight school and I got in. Had I not gotten into flight school, I probably would have separated from the military, because I did like it, but I felt like there was something more. But getting to flight school was then a game changer.
All right, so you got to flight school. So warrant officer candidate, become a warrant officer. What, W01, I guess. Go to flight school as a W01.
No, what's different today is that you actually get commissioned as a W1 pretty early in the pipeline. Back then, you didn't get it until you were done flight school. So you go through as a warrant officer candidate. And what it does is it changes your date of rank, is what it really does. I mean, you're still treated like you're an idiot, whether you're a W1 or not, but your date of rank changes. Yeah.
You guys, I made the joke earlier about the warrant officer mafia.
Yeah.
Y'all are as warrant officers, you're technicians, you're technical specialists. You have niche, basically skills and knowledge, but you're also this kind of in between that. Folks who are junior in rank or junior as officers always look at you like, I don't know what to do with you right now.
Right.
Can I tell you what to do? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And but y'all kind of ride in the middle a lot of times, it seems like.
And we're the ones that keep everything running.
And you are the ones that keep everything running.
Yeah.
There's the backbone of the Army and the NCO Corps, and then there's y'all that keep things running.
Right.
But all right, so you became a warrant officer. You went to flight school down at Fort Rucker, which is now called Fort Rucker again soon, it looks like.
Yeah.
But coming up, and we were talking about your raisings, so to speak, up there in New Hampshire. We're going to go forward into your story here in a few minutes. But what about being raised, where you were, who you were with, whatever else? What do you think instilled things in you that you wound up needing later on? Like, was it sports? Was it family? Was it faith? What did you see in your life that you looked later on like, I'm glad I had that because it built me up?
Yeah, faith is certainly part of it. Now, my faith journey had its ups and downs, and the lowest point probably being post Somalia, when looking back at what happened there, based on what we were trying to do, it could, in my mind, there was no justification for the horrors that occurred there, and I couldn't accept it, because it was horrible. I mean, there's not a lot of things I've witnessed that were as bad as what happened there. And we were there for all the right reasons. So anyway, but faith is certainly part of who I am, and it's come full circle. I think playing sports helped a lot too.
Was it hockey?
I played hockey. I played football. I mean, I wasn't great, but I played. And you learn about working and teamwork and your role in the organization to make the overall team a success. And those things to me are invaluable if you can learn them when you're young. So I think a combination of all those things.
Good enough. It's amazing sometimes what we draw on later. You don't even realize you've got it now. I can remember things as a kid that I didn't know that I grumbled about, and then later on you realize that instilled something.
Yeah.
So you went on though to do some pretty amazing stuff. So in the world of aviation, Army aviation, the 160th, which you're wearing the shirt right now.
I am wearing the
You are wearing the shirt.
by design.
Night Stalkers. So the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment. I remember when I first got in, we called them Task Force 160.
Right.
But you guys were the premier Special Operations Rotary Wing guys. And how did you? I've never heard what is like. I know what selection is like to go to Ranger School. I know what selection is like to go to the Q course for Special Forces. But there's a selection process to go to the 160th. Am I right?
No, yeah.
So-
It's very
so-
similar, actually.
All right. So tell me about that.
So when I first found out about the unit, I was in Korea. And at the time, it was still what we call a black organization, meaning nobody publicly acknowledged that it existed because it had just been formed in the
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. All right, hey, listen, every once in a while when I'm prepping the show, I look around and I find, oh, this news is good. Oh, that's right around here. Oh, this news is important. That's in our listening area. Oh, this is like happening like in and around and amongst us. And when that happens, it means that I've got to do what I call cooking up a batch of home fries. Oh, yeah. Cooking them in the pan, baby. Smell them. All right. So we're cooking up a batch of home fries, which means like news that you can relate to because it's in your backyard. Here's one that, listen, how many times have we talked about libraries lately?
Too much.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Yeah, actually. Used to be libraries were those things that flew under the radar and you didn't even know they were there because they were quiet places where you just went to get a book or check out an audio book or whatever. No, now they are the centerpiece of all things controversial. They're the culture war. That's the hub of the culture wars is the library. Got a story here from 1819 News, Dateline today. I hold it in my callous former paratrooper hands. It says, when the Alabama Public Library Service met last month, Chairman John Wall requested a list of books that were being reviewed by the Fairhope Public Library Board of Trustees. The library has been asked to get into compliance, and they have moved 7 challenge books from the teen section to the adult section. The library has also established what they call a tiered library card system that requires parents to choose a special library card if they want their children to be allowed to check out books from the adult section. I mean, anyway. The library also provided a list of 17 challenged books, showing that 10 remain in the teen section. Okay, so what we're saying here is this. I don't know why, but Fairhope, and by the way, Fairhope is a beautiful community. Anybody who's been down there, I mean, it is a gorgeous little bayside community, kind of an artsy town. It is also, I would say, somewhat of a liberal enclave. I look at this and think, sooner or later, y'all, you got to figure out life. It ain't hard to run a library, but you're making it hard. They are making it hard. There are 10 books right now that they are openly admitting are still sitting on the shelves in the section of the library designed for minors. Here's one. It's called Beyond Magenta by Susan Cookland. It's a book that explains what it means to be transgender and how to be someone who identifies as transgender. Well, outstanding. Got another one called Crank. Crank by Ellen Hopkins tells the story of a teenager experiencing a methamphetamine addiction. Wonderful. Got another one called Doing It. Let's Talk About Sex. It's in the kids section, by the way. It's a how-to guide for teens. Oh, good. A how-to guide. It serves as a guidebook for topics with various sexual orientations, sex toys, and pornography. That's in the teen section of the Fairhope Library. How about this one? Identical. It's a story of identical twins who experience sexual abuse at the hands of their father. Well, now, I could go on, but you get the picture. What I'm saying here is they are, there's also The Perks of Being a Wallflower. That's the book by Stephen Chbosky that addresses LGBTQ issues, suicide, and drug use. I look at this and think, why? Now, here's the thing. I'm gonna remind you guys, you have a right to say something. Now, the liberal left, the progressive left wants you to believe and wants the world to believe that if you go, excuse me, why is that in the children's section? That you're somehow a book banner. Charlene and I went to I think it was Books a Million. Yeah, we went to Books a Million. And there was a whole display in Books a Million in Gadsden, Alabama. The whole display, and it was marked banned books. That's what it was, banned books. Had like this whole like thing set up kind of out in the center, banned books. And it was all the books that are banned. And I looked at it and I thought, my gosh, the lovely Charlene was having none of it. My sweet demure wife, the one who doesn't like to have to get in the mix when she doesn't have to, she had to that day. She went up to the counter and goes, excuse me, I'd like to address this display over here called banned books. And the girl immediately got defensive. Well, it's about the books that aren't being allowed to be in certain. And Charlene said, you realize if you can sell them right here in the store, that means they're not banned.
Yeah, exactly. That's the irony of
That's
it.
the deep irony. If you can get it and put it in your child's hand as a parent, that means it's not banned. It just means that our taxpayer dollars don't want it in the children's section. That's all we're saying. My point to y'all is, I would encourage you to do the same. I would encourage you to follow the lovely Charlene's example. Just go ask the question. Make them explain it. The reality is they usually can't. If you ask them, excuse me, why do you think this is appropriate for the children's section? Don't ask them to get rid of it. Just say, could you please move this to the adult section? If they say, why? Understand now that the law allows you to do what's called challenging a book. All you're doing is challenging it. All you're doing is saying, as a citizen, I have concerns. I don't believe that's age appropriate. I'm challenging your book. And they're supposed to deal with it. If they don't, and they want to call you a book banner, just remind them that you're not asking for it to be burned. You're not asking for it to be thrown away. You're not even asking for it to be, put on some kind of no-fly list. All you're saying is, could you move it over there to the adult section where it belongs? And that ain't hard. All right, home fries. Good Lord. I spent the whole time talking about libraries again. But when we get back, I got some stuff. You remember the whole thing about U.S. senators being monitored by Jack Smith? Remember that? Our own Tommy Tuberville and Marsha Blackburn in Tennessee. Well, this listening area's got two senators basically that were being monitored by the Biden DOJ. And that's crazy. But now one of them, and I'll tell you who in a minute, is thinking about filing suit. Oh, you heard me. Filing suit against Jack Smith himself for overreach and for abuse of power. We'll find out. I'll tell you about it when we get back. Coming up soon, too. Right now, we're going to have a call from Secretary of State Wes Allen. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The attempted rescue of the Iranian hostages.
Right.
That's why the unit was created, because, the analysis indicated that, look, you can't just throw together a bunch of assets and go try to do a complicated mission like this. It's not going to work. And so they created the unit, and there was going to be a second attempt, but most people don't know that. But the unit started training long-range missions in the desert, all the things that were required to go prosecute that target. And we're pretty much getting to the point where they were ready to go, and then the hostages got released. But the smartest decision maybe ever made by our government was, okay, well, the hostages are released, but we still need this capability. So let's keep the organization intact, fund it, obviously because everything runs on funding, unfortunately. And today, I mean, it's just an amazing organization. It's gotten more amazing over the years. So when I found out about it, it was, like I said, it was still black. And it's like people whispered about it in bars, and it's like, wow, I read Tom Clancy books. That sounds really cool, And I was getting assigned to Fort Campbell, which is where the headquarters for the 160th is. So I'm thinking, all right, I go to Fort Campbell. I walk across the street, knock on the door, say, hey, I'm interested. What do I need to do? And I made the mistake of signing into the 101st Airborne Division before I went and talked to the 160th. And by doing that, committed me to 2 years in the 101st. But in the end, best thing that could have happened to me.
Got a lot of stick time doing that.
I did get a lot of stick time. And in Korea, I'd flown medevac. And medevac is, that's great experience. You got to make a lot of decisions on the fly, quick response, bad weather, and you're flying by yourself. I was 22 years old. I'm flying real world medevac missions, as the pilot in command.
No kidding. Yeah.
You mature fast or you die. Yeah. That's basically how it works.
And others die with you. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was great experience. But what I didn't have is multi-ship, meaning like formation flying. Not a lot of, I mean, I had a decent amount of night vision goggle time, but not a ton. And you really need a lot of night vision goggle time to do well at the 160th. So getting that extra 2 years done at 101st really helped me out. I went to the instructor pilot school while I was in 101st. So now I'm an IP. I got much more time. I got a lot more formation flying experience.
Yeah.
And then the process begins. So the assessment, again, it's a volunteer organization. So everybody that goes there on the pilot side is a volunteer. And then you have to go through an assessment, a lot like some of these other special units that you're familiar with. I mean, it's a psych eval, it's a swim test, physical fitness test, flight eval, board, all that stuff. And it happens in about a 3 or 4 day period. You know, the board's always the most dramatic because you show up with your dress uniform on, you go in there and a bunch of people look like they want to hit you. And they ask you very difficult questions and try to put you in uncomfortable situations. And, you know, there is no right answer. They just want to see how you answer the question, you know, what your makeup is. And that just begins the process. So then you enter green platoon. If they decide to take you, green platoon has changed quite a bit, but you know, by the time you start to end, it's about 10 months where you're going through, again, land navigation, life-saving, physical fitness, just, you know, all the things that, you know, soldiering in general require at a high level. And then you start basic nav, where you're navigating in the cockpit with a map and a compass. Because even today, I think the priority is, hey, look, you need to know how to navigate, even though you got multiple systems in the aircraft that'll get you there.
That's right.
When I was first in, GPS wasn't even in the aircraft yet.
Not at all.
The global positioning system, I'm assuming everybody knows what that is. But so we really did rely on a paper map and a compass. But you have to, you know, hit targets in the middle of nowhere at night with you know, very limited resources, and, you know, be able to do it every time, plus or minus 30 seconds. And it's not as easy as it sounds. I mean, you know, depending on where you're trying to go, that can be a pretty difficult task.
I can just tell you it's hard doing it on the ground.
Yeah.
Of course, you guys have a different terrain markers from up there, but you're also flying by it a lot faster, so you're having to keep track of the terrain.
Pretty quickly. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it starts with the planning process. You got to pick the right checkpoints, you know, in order to help you find your way. And then you learn the aircraft systems, because the aircraft have different systems than the conventional force does. So you got to learn how all that works. Then you got to learn the special tactics, like things like fast rope maneuvers and aerial refueling now.
I was going to ask about that.
All of that stuff is all unique to the unit. So you have to learn all that and demonstrate proficiency.
Was
Ship
Black Hawk
landing.
your airframe at the time too, right away?
Well, it was for me. It's different now because it's a pretty expensive aircraft to fly, to put all those hours on it. So now they actually start out in Little Birds, which are the Hughes 500s, basically, for all that basic nav stuff, and then they move to the advanced aircraft.
Okay.
So again, all that takes about 10 months. And then again, kind of like Jared said, then you arrive at the unit and you're still nobody, because you're the FNG, basically, if anybody knows what that acronym stands for.
It's the one we won't say, but
I
yeah.
mean, there are people that won't even talk to you. I mean, you have not proven yourself. You just because you got through green platoon means nothing, right? You have to then make your way through the progression: basic mission qualified, full mission qualified, and then the ultimate level is flight lead.
And I'm assuming green platoon actually weeds people out too.
Oh, yeah.
So you have some that are there and they're not there the next day.
Oh, you lose people in assessment. You lose people in all phases of green platoon. And then you lose some people once they get to the unit, because either the deployment schedule is too much for them, or they just aren't performing the way you thought they were going to perform, even though they got through all that. When the rubber actually meets the road, sometimes it doesn't work out.
Was it of any benefit to you at all that you had your Spanish language skills that were already there? I mean,
No, probably
in some special
not.
operations, they want a language skill to be attached to it, but is that necessary at all in aviation?
No, not really. No, I think in that case, it probably didn't help me a whole lot. I mean, the more you know about the more things, it's obviously going to help you in life, but I can't think of a specific example where that helped me out.
So you guys, you said you had some flying with nods and night vision ahead of your time going to green platoon and getting into the 160th, but you guys fly with it a lot when you're in the 160th, right? Is that one of the things that differentiates the 160th capabilities, aside from the airframe having some other capabilities too? But is flying with nods a big part of what y'all do?
Yeah, certainly at the time. I would say now there's maybe the focus is broader. I mean,
Yeah.
across the entire military.
Yeah.
But, the unit was pioneers in night vision goggle flight. I mean, our guys were the ones that came up with the idea. When I went through flight school, we actually flew with what are called full face goggles, meaning they have a frame around them where you cannot see anything other than what
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios, man. We got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international. Oh, yeah, like the dude just said. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 already. I'm not even sure what happened to hour number 1. Hour number 2 here on a Taco Tuesday, because it's often about the food. All right, but we're gonna shift gears here a little bit. I'm in the home fries section right now. We're talking about news that relates to the listening area, people in and around you, that can actually relate to the story because it's in your own backyard. And coming on the show right now is someone who's been a friend of the show for quite a while. Secretary of State Wes Allen is the Alabama Secretary of State. He has served in that office now for a full term. Prior to that, he was in the Alabama House of Representatives. Prior to that, he was a probate judge in Pike County. He's been a chief election officer now at both the county and the state level. And he is now currently also running for lieutenant governor for the state of Alabama. So on the phone right now, Secretary of State Wes Allen, how you doing?
I'm well, Senator. Thanks so much for having me on, and congratulations to you.
Well, thank you, my friend. I appreciate that very much.
Very proud of you.
Well, thank you, and that means a lot. And it's also one of those things where I don't even know what I don't know, but I do feel like God's in it, so we're heading there.
God ordained. Amen. Amen.
Hey, I'm gonna jump in with a story that just broke. I'm talking literally like in the last hour. There's a story on Fox. One of your peers in Ohio, Secretary of State Frank LaRose, he says his office has now just uncovered over 1,000 non-citizens that appear to be like illegals, I guess, that appear to be registered to vote. And maybe even 167 of those appear to have already voted at some point in the federal election, and they're sending the cases to the DOJ. I mean, can you comment on this a little bit? With Ohio there, what's going on?
Yeah, I know Secretary LaRose. He's a good one, and been knowing him, 3.5 years now. But I know he works hard, and his staff works hard to maintain election integrity, just like we do. And that saved database is the same one, Phil, that I tried to gain access to through DHS back during the Biden administration, and I just kept getting shut down. And of course, we had to go about it a different way. But now that, thank goodness, Trump is in office, thank goodness, he and DHS has made that saved database where we can cross-check our statewide voter files against that saved database. That is a database of legal non-citizens that are in the country legally.
Okay.
And so what Frank has done is run the cross-check on that, and that's what I haven't read the article yet that you're referencing, but I take your word for it. He's run the cross-check. We signed on with the SAVE database with DHS, signed the agreement with them a while back, and we are, going through that process now. We don't have anything to report as of yet, but we are working extremely hard. We have a regular and robust voter file maintenance program that we have been putting into place. As a matter of fact, the system that we have put in place over the last 3.5 years, we enshrined in the state law so that no matter who the secretary is that comes in after us, they will have to comply with and follow the law to, just like I've talked about this before. I think I said on your show, it's daily hygiene.
Yeah.
Think about brushing your teeth and washing your hair.
Yeah.
That's how we take the approach with voter file maintenance.
Well, and rightfully so. And I've seen it because I think I've told you before that as an attorney, I actually assisted someone who had had just lost a city council race by 1 vote, and we proved that 9 of the provisionals should have counted, but it was an issue at the registrar level, and unfortunately, when we opened them, she still lost by 1. But I like to say we won the case and lost the race, but nonetheless, we proved that 9 of them should have counted. Well, that's cool. Now you guys have done an amazing amount of election integrity and ballot security, and cleaning up the voter rolls. But in your role right now as Secretary of State, how often do you interact with people like Frank LaRose from Ohio? I mean, do y'all like collaboratively work together a lot?
Well, I see him and most all of our other secretaries from around the country at our annual conference, which normally takes place in January of each year in Washington, D.C. But we talk occasionally, and especially I talk to the ones around me a little more often than our sister states, but because we work with them signing bilateral agreements to share our voter files with, like Tennessee and Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, Louisiana, those type things. But there are some strong Republican conservative secretaries out there throughout the country that are working hard to make sure that we have up to date, clean, and accurate voter files. I mean, that's not too much to ask, and that's what the people of this state elected me to do. And I heard it loud and clear on the campaign trail. And we put together a team in our office that are first round draft picks, and we get in. We do a lot on the back end of things that people just, it just doesn't get many headlines, but you work at it day in and day out with the boards of registrars, with the probate judges, and you go and carry out the laws of this state and uphold the laws of this state to run clean, accurate elections.
Well, and I'll give props too. I don't know if people realize sometimes the amount of time and hours y'all put in, but I was actually talking to one of your staff last week, and he said, "Don't worry, I'm going to be here late this evening. We have a special election, and I can't leave till all those results come in." I thought, well, that's people don't even think about that. I mean,
there's one today. There's one going on today in Coleman.
Oh, is there really? Wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah, there's another one going on today. Sure is.
Wow. Oh, hey, let me shift gears. So you've been a pretty effective Secretary of State. I mean, the nice thing is ain't nobody complaining, except for Democrats. But the
right.
Well, but now you're running for lieutenant governor. And having served in the Senate myself, I know the value of a strong lieutenant governor, someone wielding the gavel who presides over the Senate. It's a different role. I mean, the interesting dynamic is people don't realize the lieutenant governor's position is actually technically a part-time position, kind of like the legislature is. So what are your thoughts? How's the race going right now? 67 counties is a lot, but you've run statewide before.
Yeah, I have. And, there's no one, in my opinion, obviously more prepared to become and serve as lieutenant governor more than myself. I mean, judicial, legislative, executive branch experience. Someone that understands the position, number one, does not have a vote in the Senate, as you just kind of alluded to. They preside over the state Senate. They maintain order. They call balls and strikes. One thing that a lot of people don't realize is the appointing authority to the unelected boards and commissions that are set up legislatively in this state. About 167 or so boards and commissions that the lieutenant governor has appointment authority over that are unelected, but you appoint people, and we've got to make sure, Phil, as I'm sure you agree, to appoint strong, conservative, common sense people to these boards and commissions. Because those things are really, really important and can use their relationships. I mean, the relationships that I've been able to establish from my probate judge days through the legislature through today with all these local elected officials, knowing these communities, knowing their needs, to be able to use those relationships and have a positive influence on the outcome of Alabama. I don't think there's not anybody else in this race that is more prepared to step in there as lieutenant governor and to help Coach Tuberville accomplish his agenda.
Well, okay. And you said that. So let me address the elephant in the room. AJ McCarron just jumped in, and I think it's one of those things. It's one of those names that came out of the blue. I did not see that. That was not on my bingo card for this year. But he's in now, and I got to ask you, have you run across him yet? Have y'all been on the campaign trail yet? And is it true, in your opinion, is it true that he has never registered to vote in the state of Alabama? And has he even addressed that yet?
I have not met AJ. We've not ran across each other on the campaign trail. He has addressed it, I believe, in a AL.com article recently. And no, he has only recently registered to vote, never voted. So that's what I know at this time.
Wow. I mean, so at that point, I mean, one of the questions that I had back when I heard his name, and I'm just picking right now, I know that you don't have to comment on this if you don't want to, but I questioned his citizenship because he's been playing ball in other states. And so the story is that he has a residence in Alabama, and I would hope that he would have figured that out before he signed up for the race. But now we find out he had never registered to vote. Now I guess the question is, did he vote anywhere else? And so if we're saying the guy wants to be lieutenant governor who's never even cast a vote, or he must have voted somewhere else, that's going to be a dynamic that I think is going to continue to play out. Would you agree?
Well, I'll just say that, this campaign is going to be about more than just talk. It's going to be about real action. And, I think, Phil, you know me, you've been knowing me a while, since the days when I would come up there as a probate judge when you were a state senator and monitor legislation that affected probate court and judicial branch, that I'm a man of action and have done some things that have accomplished real concrete things for where I was serving at the time. And there's nobody else in this race that stood up for marriage as a union between a man and a woman when I was a probate judge, when the federal judge struck down our laws. There's no one else in this race that was the tip of the spear, getting the legislation across the finish line that protected these children from puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and the sex change operation, these transgender ideology. There's nobody else in this race that has, sponsored legislation to cut red tape and be a friend of small business. And then obviously my record as a Secretary of State attending to that office and protecting Alabama's election. So we're very excited about the campaign in front of us, and I love Alabama, and I'm running to be the next Republican lieutenant governor because I love the state and I'm proud of my conservative record.
Well, you handled that question very well. Well, good on you. But we'll do our own bird dogging of the situation. But for right now, Secretary of State Wes Allen, current Secretary of State for the state of Alabama, also candidate for lieutenant governor. If folks want to find out more about you, where can they go?
Well, there's many places that you can see where I'm at. I'm on Facebook. It's Wes Allen for Alabama, on Instagram and on social media. Wes Allen for Alabama, 2026 on Instagram. WesAllenForAlabama.com. WesAllenForAlabama.com.
All right, Wes Allen, Secretary of State. Thanks very much, and hopefully we'll be talking again in the near future.
Well, nothing but the best to you, Senator, and looking forward to what God's got in store for you and your family. And it's going to be exciting times ahead.
Thank you, my friend. Take care. All right. We'll, JP and I will parse out the issues of A.J. McCarron's voting record here momentarily. But in the meantime, we're taking a break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
Through the tubes. And we did flights during the daytime with filters on the ends of the tubes where the instructor can see, but you can't, because obviously that's the safest way to learn how to fly night vision goggles. But it's really difficult for the person actually flying under those conditions. I think I was actually the last class to ever fly full face goggles and do day filters. I'm not sure, but we made a transition right around that time. But it was guys at the unit who said, "This is stupid. Cut the frame off," right? Because they're originally made for ground use, not air use. Yeah. So they cut the frame off and they made them flip up, and there's been evolution after evolution.
They got the big cushion pad around.
Yeah,
and they're like,
the full
like
face
big.
ones. Yeah. They didn't last very long, but that's where it started. Until somebody said, "No, we need to change this." And then they came up with ideas like finger lights and lip lights and infrared lasers and infrared tracers and all these things that you can see with night vision goggles that you can't see with the unaided eye. All were, basically came from that early
So how much of that training is done by simulators now? Do they do that?
A lot. Yeah, a lot. Yeah. Simulators are really good. It was actually part of what I did after, I transitioned out, was working that field. And it's a tremendous cost saver and safety. You can do things in a simulator that are sometimes impossible to do in the aircraft, but certainly safer to do in a simulator. And you can do it cost effectively, because a lot of what's going on in the aircraft today that are advanced is mission management. It's not so much moving the sticks around, it's pushing buttons and understanding how to use the integrated avionics. And you don't need to learn how to do that in a, aircraft that costs whatever, $10,000 an hour to fly. Now, I'm not saying you don't need stick time. Okay, that's the trap that some bean counters tend to fall into. That
There's always that seat of the pants feel that
yes,
changes things.
and actually the Army has come to realize that the aircraft they've been using for primary flight training at Fort Rucker now probably isn't the best, because you're not doing enough actual stick flying. There's a lot of automated systems on board that help the aircraft, or help you as a pilot, that you're losing that real ability to fly manually.
Yeah.
And they just did a pilot program where they're going to probably change how flight school is done, because there's been a realization that we got people that don't know how to fly a helicopter. I mean, they can mission manage all day long, but if they have to actually fly a bird, they're not as good as we used to be, unfortunately.
So let me ask you this: what now? The 160th, y'all are balls out a lot. So when you're flying, some of the stuff you're doing are not the things you would do or even be allowed to do in a conventional unit. But then you're also, like you said, you were back in the days when things were being pioneered. And I swear, I think it was you told me one time about strapping a Gatling gun or something to the front of one of the birds just to try it out to see if it would work. And it didn't work very well.
Well, am
I right in remembering that?
Yeah, I was part of the group that created the Arm Blackhawk.
Okay.
And it's still the only place that it's used is at the 160.
All right.
And yeah, we were running with scissors. I mean, we put a 50 cal, and these things are being mounted just on what was originally intended to be a door gunner pintle mount. So it's not really structurally designed to hold, a fixed forward weapon, but we modified it to where it could. And I mean, we
had
duct
tape, a little zip tie.
Oh, plenty of duct tape. Yeah, even coat hangers. I mean, you name it, whatever it took. But it was an amazing time to be there, because you could go from sitting in the team room saying, "Man, it would be cool if we could do this," to convincing the leadership that there's some risk here, but we think we can mitigate it. Let's go try it. To then, that worked, writing the requirement and actually getting it turned into something that is fielded, and then go shoot it in combat. I mean, there's probably nowhere else in the world you could say that. And I experienced that on more than one occasion.
So what was the craziest thing you can remember y'all did and thought, "Man, we're never going to do that again"? The one that you sit around at 160th reunions going, "Remember that time?"
Yeah. Well, one of the most amazing stories, and I've told it many times. I like to joke that I shot myself down 5 times. And the most dramatic one, and none of it my fault, but the most dramatic one. So back to this pintle mount with a minigun on it. So a minigun is a 7.62 Gatling gun,
right.
6-barrel. It'll shoot 6,000 rounds a minute at high rate. Okay, that is incredible. When people see video, like if you go online, you Google minigun, night firing, keep in mind all those traces you're seeing, that's every 14th round. Okay, or every 15th round. It's 14 to 1 tracer mix usually. So even though it's a steady stream of tracers,
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. Bulletproof influence, y'all. Bulletproof influence. All right. Hey, listen, so JP looked up that article that I hadn't seen yet, the one that's on AL.com. Phil, are y'all going to AL.com? We are. Because we'll go places where you don't have to.
Well, in all fairness, it's AL.com referencing Alabama Daily News. So
no, really?
Yeah.
Is it an article written by Mike Kaysen?
Yes.
And I will say this. I know Mike Kaysen. He's a good dude. I've never had a problem with Mike Kaysen. AL.com editorial board, different story. But Mike Kaysen's a pretty good dude. All right. So what's the article say, JP?
Well, it pretty much, it says what y'all were discussing. AJ McCarron has not registered to vote in any state, not even Alabama. Yeah, so he has not registered to vote in any state. But apparently, McCarron told Alabama Daily News in response to a question about not registering previously that he was, quote, the ultimate outsider candidate. So apparently he's spinning this as him not even voting in elections makes him an even bigger outsider, which
That's pretty outside politics, all right.
that is like, yeah, almost a little bit too outside politics. Like people get on board with the guy who cares about policy and politics, but is not a politician, and that outsider. But a guy who hasn't even been voted anywhere in elections makes you wonder, okay, what does this guy even believe in, politically?
He says in one of the articles that I saw that he says, in his words, he, quote, publicly endorsed Trump in 2016.
Yeah.
What, like on social media? Like, I hope Trump wins. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, there's a picture he took with him, I guess, before one of his rallies that he posted. So he's fallen back on that. But that is interesting that he has not even registered to vote in any of the states that he lived in.
So if you care enough to endorse a guy in 2016, how is it you never even registered to vote since then?
Mm-hmm.
And that's almost a decade ago.
Yep.
I mean,
it is. It's 9 years ago.
Wow.
So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. At least that kind of answers the residency, maybe a little bit. If
okay, and I am casting aspersions, and I know it. All right, I don't want to go too far down the road with speculation, evil. But I will say this: we better not find him registered to vote in Cincinnati or something like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's because it's easily verifiable.
Yes.
All you got to do is contact the registrar's office in the counties where he used to live and see if he was registered. It's not hard. It's a public record. One of the things that's interesting is when you're a campaign, like when you're running statewide, you're allowed to get the voter registration list in order to, campaign with known Republicans. You can send your mailers to known Republicans. Well, part of the way you do that is you acquire the voter because they're public record. And so this is going to be easy to find out.
Yeah.
So if he registered in was it Philly or no, St. Louis?
He was in the Bengals for many years, but then the UFL team he was just on was the St. Louis Battlehawks.
Yeah. So if we find him registered to vote, it's going to be easy to confirm. Mm-hmm. All right. So it's the bottom line is this is not do him favors. So I'm going to ask you: Is the Bammer world out there going to embrace him simply because he's a Bammer, or are they going to go, "Wow, hang on a second, what do you mean you never voted?" Because technically, you're both. You're a Bammer, and you're, oh, by the way, somebody who really cares.
I mean, yeah, I'll just say that I'm not going to vote for somebody just because they're a Bama guy. Because I'm actually very engaged in politics, but the Alabama fan who doesn't even know anybody on the ballot, but just sees AJ McCarron, that guy won 2 national championships. I don't know that they may do that, but people who are actually engaged in politics like me, I'll vote for Coach Tuberville. I think he's an awesome senator, going to be an awesome governor. And I'm not just going to vote for AJ McCarron because right now Wes Allen is the candidate in my opinion. So no, not me, but I can't answer for all of the Bama fans out there.
Okay. We'll see what happens.
We will see.
Adam from Athens is not a fan of AJ McCarron. I won't read what he said, but there he is. Tom with all the kids says,
send in 3 texts.
Oh, he sent in 3 texts. And I'm not sure that the no voting matters. I spent the first 18 years of my military career not voting because I thought it was my duty to be apolitical. Unless, like you said, he was voting other states. And then he said, did realize that I was wrong and I vote all the time now. Well, there you have it. You never lose your constitutional rights. All right. Tom with all the kids. Appreciate you. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. It's Phil Williams here. I want to remind you that Inspire Advisors is one of our sponsors, and they are doing amazing work. Look, I know this audience. You're the kind of folks who believe in standing up for your principles. You're good stewards of your resources. But what if the companies you were investing in don't reflect your values at all? Well, that's why you need to meet Paul Breyer and his team at Inspire Advisors. Because Inspire Advisors, they are experts in the field of biblically responsible investing. They can help you grow your bottom line while also be proud of what companies you're investing in. Inspire Advisors, check them out. Their website, www.moneypatternwealth.com, and tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio.
There's 14 more rounds in between each one of those you're not seeing. That's how many rounds are going down range. So we got one on each side. And the way that we fixed forward mounted them is we put this, we called it a diaper pin. It was a pin that went through the pivot, which, because, you know, if it's a door gunner, they're going to want to be able to pivot it, right?
Right.
We have to fix that. So we put a brace to hold it vertically, and then we put this pin through the shaft it's rotating on to hold it horizontally. And then it's a diaper pin because it goes around and it has a hook on the end that connects on the end. Right?
Okay. All right.
Which sounds like that should be sufficient. Well, it is until it isn't. And I'm flying with Donovan Briley, who's a really good friend of mine, lost in Somalia, actually. First aircraft shot down. We're flying. He's in the right seat. I'm in the left. Night vision goggles. We're going in a range at Fort Knox. Live fire. You know, no dry run. We got approval to usually have to make a dry pass to make sure there's nobody out there, but we got approval to go in hot. So we roll in. I'm flying. I pull the trigger, and the tracers are crossing in front of the nose. And so I
That's
let off.
bad, by the way.
Yeah, I let off
Don't
on the
cross
trigger.
the streams.
And I said, that is the worst expletive bore sight job I have ever seen in my life. So a bore sight is when you
Right.
orient the weapons to where they're going to impact where the sight is pointing, right? And Donovan, in classic Donovan style, says, Mike, I think we got a problem. So I look over, and I mentioned the finger lights earlier. Finger light is just a little battery-operated LED that is infrared, so you can't see it unless you're wearing goggles. We have some that you can see. This one you could see. And he turns on his finger light, and he points to the windshield. His minigun, that diaper pin can't come out while we were flying to Fort Knox. And when I pulled the trigger, the barrel rotation caused the gun to go left. You would think the wind would cause it to go right, but the barrel rotation caused it to go left.
Force.
And it shot through the cockpit. It missed his knee by like 3 inches. He's got 7.62 rounds all through the cockpit. The windshield's blown out. Glass has been, because I felt something in my eyes, and it turned out it was glass shards from the rounds going through the cockpit.
Almighty, Mike.
And again, luckily, it hit. He had a armor panel on the side here, and the barrels hit the front of the armor panel, I think, but it stopped them from going any further, or it would come right through the cockpit and kill us both. And anyway, we landed, and what I like to say about this story is, you know, this is back when it seemed like we had a little bit of authority to do things that maybe you'd get crushed for today. So I'm thinking about, okay, nowhere in the manual does it say I can't have holes in the windshield to fly this bird. So we put duct tape, back to the duct tape, over the holes in the windshield, cranked it up, and flew it back to Fort Campbell.
No,
Today, that would probably get you a little
with your
bit
finger
more.
off the trigger the whole time.
We emptied the rounds out of the weapons, but that's probably the most dramatic thing that ever happened non-combat.
Yeah.
That I can come up with. And then there were 4 more of those that are less exciting. But
No, that's well, yeah, that's definitely. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Big old radio footprint, y'all. Big old radio footprint in places like Alabama and Tennessee and Georgia and Mississippi. I'm just saying. And then, oh, by the way, ton of y'all live streaming the show every single day on X, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then tons of y'all. I mean, this week we might hit 365,000 downloads of the show's podcast.
Not might, we will.
Okay. I like it. Anyway, that's just monstrous. But I say all that to acknowledge the fact that we know where you're catching the show, and however you're catching the show means the world to us. So thank you very much for it. Hey, I just realized I had a question. I forgot. I got so wrapped up in the A.J. McCarron thing with Secretary of State Wes Allen. I had another story with his name on it. And I meant to actually ask him about this. So I got an article here from AL.com. Phil, did you go to AL.com again? I did. I go these places so you don't have to. But Mike Kaysen, again, like I said, good dude. Mike Kaysen for AL.com wrote a piece, came out today. Says Alabama Secretary of State Wes Allen and a Republican state senator want to change our state constitution to require state elected officials to be citizens born in the United States, not just a naturalized citizen. They want born here. Now, you may wonder, is there precedent for this? Yes, you cannot be the president of the United States unless you were born in the United States, naturalized citizens. For instance, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he was able to be governor of California. He could not run for president of the United States. And there was a time when it was even being discussed. Can we get that changed? It's Arnold. I mean, granted, that would have been quite the American dream, but nonetheless, what we're watching right now, Secretary Allen, who is running for lieutenant governor, he said the idea is to apply the same standard that requires the president and vice president to both be born in the United States. He said, we're just mirroring what the Constitution requires of our president and vice president. We want to make sure no potential foreign influence or foreign meddling could impact our state's highest elected leaders. And that would exclude then naturalized citizens born outside the country who would complete the process to become citizens. Now, I have naturalized citizens in my family. I get it. I don't know. How y'all feel about this? I want to hear your thoughts on this. Naturalized citizens. I don't think I'd ever really thought about this much, but Allen said he came up with the idea because of what he says is a trend of people being born outside the United States running for high-profile offices, and he named a few. He named, of course, Zohran Mamdani. There's one. You can think of Ilhan Omar. There's one. Rashida Tlaib. Rashida Tlaib. She may have been born here, but she's a Palestinian. Her family immigrated. Anyway, he points out Ruwa Rahman is a Democratic candidate for governor in Georgia. She was born in Jordan, is the granddaughter of Palestinian refugees. So I don't know. I got mixed feelings on this one. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Naturalized citizens, are they okay? Or should we say, you know what? Just be born here. It's okay. Your thoughts on it. What else have I got in my stack? Oh, I teased this earlier. Story came out yesterday. Our buddy Yaffe wrote this one for Yellowhammer. Yellowhammer News. So many of y'all are aware that this show is in Tennessee also. We're also on WGOW out of Chattanooga. But we're also crossing the lines from WVNN out of Huntsville. So that being said, all you Tennessee folks, listen up. U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn, which I think Marsha Blackburn is pretty daggum sharp. I think she's been a great U.S. Senator. I think she's very conservative. I think she and Tommy Tuberville have worked well together in neighboring states. They're both running for governor. So she's running to be the governor of Tennessee. And they both, oh, by the way, have one other thing in common. They were both investigated by Jack Smith, the special counsel appointed by the Merrick Garland Biden DOJ. Well, they were both had their phones monitored, and she says now that she is discussing the idea of, here's what she said, quote, there are 8 senators that the FBI spied on. They pulled all of our phone records, every call that came into us or that we made, where we were physically standing when the call was made, the duration of the call, the individual that either received or made the call to us, and they pulled all those records, and there's no reason for them to have done that, Blackburn said. She went on to say she believes it was against the law and a violation of our constitutional rights. Says we cannot find the predicate, she argued. It's a violation of our First and Fourth Amendment rights, separation of powers, the Stored Communications Act, the Speech and Debate Clause. And yes, the 8 of us are looking at filing charges against the Biden FBI, the Biden DOJ, and Jack Smith. Okay, listen, she made quite the statement. Tuberville just said, go ahead and disbar Jack Smith and lock him up. That's all he said.
So he said the same thing in less words, pretty much.
He did. But that's interesting. So what we're looking at right there is the 2 U.S. senators who are both running for governors of their respective southeastern states are now saying that they are considering pressing charges against Jack Smith and members of the Biden DOJ. That's something else, man. That's a whole new day. Just saying. All right. I am cooking up a batch of home fries. Give me some home fries right there. Yeah. Home fries. Smell them cooking in the pan. Stories that happen in and around and amongst you. Here's one. This government shutdown, y'all. We just hit 28 days. Come on. I mean, wow. So 28 days of the Schumer shutdown. And what's amazing to me is how they are doing all they can to try and put this off on the Republicans. Everybody who's paying attention, which I hope is everybody, but everybody who's paying attention knows that you have to have 60 votes and that every Republican is voting for the continuing resolution. Every single one of them, with the exception of Rand Paul. I will say that. Rand Paul has never voted for a CR ever, as far as I know. But that being said, the Republican caucus is voting for this. The Democrats, even today, just so y'all know, listen to me, everybody in the sound of my voice, if you are a government employee, if you are a military member, if you are someone who works with government contracts that are on hold, if you are someone who relies upon, oh, I don't know, maybe you're trying to get your passport done so you can go on a trip and you can't get it right now. Maybe you're trying to file paperwork with the IRS and nobody answers the phone right now. Maybe you're trying to take a flight and your flight's delayed because air traffic controllers aren't getting paid. Guess what? Even today, Democrats once again today voted no on the continuing resolution to not open government. 28 days. We're at a month, y'all. Well, the piece I've got that also impacts the listening area is this. 1819 News has a piece that came out yesterday saying Alabama's SNAP benefits to end in November due to government shutdown. Quote is, the well has run dry. I talked about this briefly yesterday. But right now, it is kind of a crying shame how many people in the United States participate in government entitlement programs or like basically things like Medicaid and in this case, SNAP, which is what we used to call food stamps back in the day. It's the EBT cards. SNAP and WIC. SNAP is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. WIC is called the Women, Infants, and Children's Program. Both of these are done using federal funds administered by the states. The EBT card is refilled on a monthly basis so that people can go buy their groceries. I would love to see less people on that. However, what I would also advise is that you don't cut them off overnight because you don't want to vote on a bill. That's how you create havoc. Well, right now they're saying that the the Alabama Department of Human Resources received guidance from USDA that the suspension of the SNAP benefits for the month of November is due to the federal government shutdown. Recipients will be able to use their benefits up to November 1st at any SNAP authorized retailer. This is not going to go over well. And I wonder, what do you think, man? How long can Democrats hold out on this?
I really don't know. I kind of thought that they would already budge by now, but part of me thinks that they want chaos. I've already seen a bunch of people on TikTok who are saying, if we come Thanksgiving and I can't buy my Thanksgiving with, my SNAP, then, I'm gonna lose my mind and all hell is gonna break loose. Part of me thinks maybe that's what Democrats want. They want the chaos so that they can pin it on Trump and the Republicans, which is a really sad and sick place for the Democratic Party to be at. But I honestly feel like that's in their mind the only way that they think they can win is to just create as much havoc and chaos as possible and then blame Trump, and then they can come in after everything is burnt down. Unfortunately, I kind of feel like that's where they're thinking, but I don't know.
I wonder too, there's a couple of bellwether elections out there right now. You've got the Virginia governor's race with Winsome Sears. You've got the New Jersey governor's race with Chitterelli, the Republican. You've got the mayor of New York with Mondani and Cuomo. I wonder if Democrats are playing, gamesmanship where they're going to watch to see if we can prevail in these elections, then we'll call ourselves having a mandate and we'll stay in the fight. Or if we see that we can't prevail, that maybe we need to move on and recognize that the sentiments are not with us. I'm just wondering if that's part of what the calculus is here.
Well, AOC and Bernie Sanders were at Mamdani's big rally earlier this week, and they love going to all of these rallies and blaming the government shutdown on Trump and the Republicans and saying how they're fighting the big fascists by having, and he's shut the government down, but we're fighting them like that. I feel like that's their only card they have. Yeah, so
absolutely. I listen, it's nuts. All I know is this. There's people about to go hungry. There's people who have worked for a living that are not getting paid. There's government services we can't get. I was talking to an accountant the other day who's been working on filing people's paperwork, and he said they can't even get the IRS to answer. And this is a CPA who does this for a living. He knows how to reach people, and he can't even get through. So there's that. I got a call real quick. I'll take it for the break. I got about a minute. So Wolverine Dan, hey, buddy, how are you?
Well, after what you just said, I'm sick to my stomach. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I cannot believe what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing right now. And you know something? Air traffic controllers are working super long hours.
Yep.
And I don't want this to happen, but what if something happens in the air? And the reason why is that they don't have enough air traffic controllers, or they're so overworked, somebody passes out, for crying out loud. This is ridiculous. All the children, stop your fighting amongst each other. Get down, sit at a table, and work this out, because this is ridiculous.
I'm not arguing, man. And I've already seen a couple of airports have had to shut down or curtail their operations just because of it.
Yeah, well, you know what? Next time we need to do something about this. They need to stop paying these representatives. You ain't getting nothing till you figure it out. We all feel that way, because when we don't work, like my son, he's not getting paid.
Yep. I feel it, man. I got members of my family in the same boat. Wolverine Dan, love you, man. Have a great day. See you, bro. Got to take a break. There it is. Take that break. We'll come right back and put a wrap on home fries. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Swap over a beer and let me talk the time we shut ourselves down.
Yeah.
That's
so they don't use the diaper pins anymore, by the way.
All right, so op tempo for you. You're in the 160th. Operational tempo is higher than the average unit, I would imagine, but it's a lot of come and go. What's the op tempo like in the 160th?
Nonstop.
Yeah.
Again, I was out when 9/11 occurred. I'd retired 6 months prior.
Really?
Made me feel like I was sitting on the bench and considered what I could do to get back in. But with my injuries from Somalia, I couldn't fly operationally anymore. But the reason I bring that up is just to put this in perspective. The rotation for our guys during the War on Terror was 90 days on, 90 days off. So you're in theater 90 days, either Iraq or Afghanistan, you're back for 90, then back in. There are guys who did 30 rotations, 30 in combat. And when I say combat, I mean combat. Yeah. They're hitting multiple targets every night. And there's just no op tempo that's more demanding than that I know of.
That's every one of the airframes.
Yes.
Chinooks, Blackhawks.
Yeah, the Chinooks were the stars of Afghanistan, actually, because of the elevation, which was a real struggle for the Little Birds and even the Blackhawks. But Iraq was pretty much more a Blackhawk Little Bird show.
Yeah.
With certainly a lot of Chinook missions as well, but yeah, all the platforms.
Yeah, I was in my tour in Afghanistan was the beginning of the war, riding horses and stuff. But we were in the northern parts, north of the Hindu Kush, and so both Bagram and Kandahar down south couldn't get to us by rotary wing because getting over the top of the Hindu Kush was too much for most of the airframes they flew.
Yep.
And the only couple of times something happened where somebody came in from the south, I think they were flying Chinooks.
Yep. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's a beast. I mean, it really is.
It's a freaking school bus with rotors on top.
Yeah, we call it a dump truck, but I love it. Yeah, it's a great aircraft.
But I've seen images of, some of those guys that fly in the Chinooks. It's amazing. They can balance on a dime. But they literally, one guy was with the ramp down in the back was hovering in the air, exiting troops onto a mud hut on the edge of a cliff.
Yeah, there's a famous picture from Afghanistan. That's probably it.
Yeah.
The front wheels are off in space, with hundreds of feet below. Yeah.
So you had some major deployments. Operation Prime Chance, which a lot of folks don't realize is defending tankers that were flagged American and making sure they're safe.
Our friends, the Iranians, who
they're in the news again.
They've I don't even know what to say about them. It's just they've been a constant problem for 50 years, and it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because the Israelis are just to the point where they had to do something, and they did.
Yeah, and I think most of the world is glad they did. At the same time, holding their breath that they did.
Right.
But Operation Just Cause. So you're back in Panama again. And you went in with the 160th on that too, right?
Right. We did. We were there for 8 hours. So when the F-117 dropped the first bomb ever at Rio Hato, I was down there underneath watching it. It was pretty amazing.
Flying over places you've been to in the past, right?
Yeah. Some of the subsequent missions, there's where I used to live, and we're putting SEAL Team 6 in on targets around the city trying to find, because Noriega was still on the run at the time. That our mission was to capture him. That was it.
Yeah.
And we called it the hunt for Elvis, because there was always an Elvis sighting somewhere, and usually it was bogus, but if it met the intel criteria, we'd go. And so we were flying all over the place.
And then Desert Storm also, also with 160th. Obviously, all your deployments there with 160th. But what was the mission in Desert Storm? Was it scud hunting or what?
It was, yeah. So the scuds, for those who don't recall, the concern was Saddam was launching scuds into Israel,
right,
which potentially would draw Israel into the fight, which would break up our coalition, because our coalition had Arab countries along with Western countries as part of a unified force. But if the Israelis got involved, the concern was that would fall apart. So it was a huge issue to stop Saddam Hussein from firing scuds into Israel. So we were putting Delta Force on the ground in Western Iraq to try to find these launchers. And then we actually found some ourselves. And I was fortunate enough to put the first rounds on one.
Did you really?
I did, yeah.
With an armed Black Hawk?
With an armed Black Hawk.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Take it out?
So in the end, they think it was a decoy. But there's a photo of it in this. I don't know if you've ever seen these books. Like there's an Army one, a Navy one, Air Force. There's a SOCOM book. They're big format, like coffee table books. Yeah. In that book for SOCOM, there's a picture of my
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just giving you all the truth you can slap on a bumper sticker, man. I'm telling you. That's it. I got a couple more stories here I was going to bring up as part of the home fries segment. So cook me up some home fries there, JP. Smell them. Love me some home fries. All right. So 1819 had a story that I did not recall this, but the dateline of the story is today. However, the incident occurred in the year 2020. Let that sink in. An illegal alien has been arrested by the Decatur Police Department, charged with 3 counts of murder for his role in a fatal car crash. According to a local news report, Adelaido Jimenez Barrientos, 48, is accused of killing Tammy Martin in Morgan County while driving under the influence of alcohol in November 2020. A grand jury has indicated that Barrientos struck Martin's vehicle, leading to her death. 3 counts of murder, despite Martin being the only victim listed. I'm not sure what. Okay, anyway. He was being held on $50,000 bond in the Morgan County Jail. Has been placed under an ICE detainer. So now, what's curious to me is this happened in 2020, and it's just now. I mean, I don't know if they had not located him. All I know is this: there's another illegal alien who, because he was here, someone died, and that's all there is to it. I mean, this is one of those. In the law, we have things we call a but for. But for this happening, the proximate cause of something occurring is but for this, there would not have been a result. So, but for his presence, there would not have been a DUI crash. Had the illegal not been here, there would not have been a crash that killed someone right here in Alabama.
So I guess that means he had a valid driver's license while he was here, or did he not?
I would say no, since we don't issue them.
That's true. It was here in Alabama. It wasn't in like California.
Unless he came from another state. I don't know the answer to that question. So, California has a history of issuing driver's licenses and commercial CDLs, driver's licenses. Yeah, and all that. Last story I've got, and I'll get some text messages. So U.S. Senate has now confirmed Bill Lewis as a district judge for the Middle District of Alabama. All right, I'm going through the process right now. I don't know Bill Lewis personally. I have heard nothing but good things, though. So Governor Kay Ivey appointed Bill Lewis, to the Alabama Court of Civil Appeals back in February of 24. He served on that court, but he was just picked up to be a new federal district court judge for the Middle District of Alabama. Y'all, first of all, it is hard to put into words the extent to which, like, for instance, all the backgrounds and everything else that you have to go through for these appointments. But I will say this, he has now already moved through the confirmation process and is being seated on the bench. And if you haven't heard me say it before, hear me say it now. The federal district court judgeship is one of the most powerful positions in the entire nation. Think about it. Who is it that keeps trying to, curtail the Trump administration's efforts? Who is it that keeps saying executive orders are unconstitutional? What's happening is federal district court judges that are put in who are not qualified or who come in with a liberal agenda are oftentimes found to be legislating from the bench. Bill Lewis is a good dude, and I'm excited about the fact that he just got appointed to the bench. And that's for life for good cause, by the way. He's going to be there for a while. But all that to say, you're watching right now across the nation why it's so important to have quality judges put into a federal district court judgeship, because those positions are incredibly powerful. What happens in the appellate levels beyond that is dealing with what the federal district court judge did or said or opined. So that's good. Alabama is racking them up. We just had, I think we have two that just got, Edmund Nakora, I believe, just got confirmed also. So anyway, yay. That's good. Hope one day you're reading about me getting confirmed too. Very soon.
Very soon.
That's my hope. All right, let me get a few text messages. I got about a minute for the break. Brian from Decatur says, if you find a police force failed to hold an illegal immigrant on an ICE detainer and freed him, later that individual hurts and kills somebody, can you sue the police department? It depends. So here's the thing. Did they willfully or recklessly act outside the line of scope of their duties by doing that? Did they choose, or was it an oversight? Like there's no way they could have seen it. So there's going to be issues there. And I would have to say that Alabama is also what's known as a contributory negligent state. So if it's a negligent action in state court law, then you're going to wind up having to prove that you or that the individual didn't contribute to their own injuries. I say all that knowing what I'm saying. But my answer to you, Brian, is it depends. Tom from Decatur says, it's been my understanding that a foreign driver's license is accepted not only as ID, but driving privileges as well in Alabama. I'm not aware of that. I think I need to see that law because I think if you get pulled over and you have a foreign driver's license, that's acceptable. But if you are an illegal alien with a stand-in license from the state of California, I don't know that counts. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. Hour number 3 coming up.
If you look at that picture, I don't care who you are, you're not going to think that's a decoy. I mean, so FLIR is forward-looking infrared. For those who don't know what that acronym is, it's heat sensitive, basically. You can see heat on the wheels. I mean, it looks real. I mean, this thing absolutely looks real. And then you can see the minigun rounds sort of hitting on the way up into but it didn't blow up. And we had a Scud expert back at the operations center when we got back, and he said, you're really lucky it didn't blow up, because if it blows up, it's like the space shuttle going off because there's so much propellant in there. Oh, wow. And we were pretty close. We were probably within 200 meters when we broke. Oh, wow. Yeah. Break meaning you're diving, you're shooting, and then you break. And he said if you would have blown it up, it probably would have taken you out. So, okay.
Glad it take that all day long. Yeah. You still get credit though, right?
I guess so. Yeah.
And then there's Operation Gothic Serpent, which is heading into Somalia. Became known as the Battle of Mogadishu. A lot of your book, of course, and rightfully so, is focused on that mission. I want to dive into that for a bit, because that's the one. I mean, your situation in the Battle of Mogadishu took you out of running in obscurity in terms of your personal name, and thrust you into the eyes of the entire world. And I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when that happened. It was amazing to see it. But for those who don't recall, Operation Gothic Serpent, the intro into Mogadishu for the United States actually started under George H.W. Bush.
Correct.
But it transitioned in early '93 when Clinton took office.
Correct.
So you were there during Clinton's era, correct?
Yes.
All right. So Clinton took office in January '93. Task Force Ranger is the name of the U.S. presence, I guess, at the airfield there. And then in October, was it October 3rd, I think? October 3rd, '93, launched what many people just refer to as Black Hawk Down because that's the book and the movie. And I guess code word Irene was what launched the mission, right?
It was.
Which my secretary downstairs at the law firm, her name is Irene. I
Oh,
told her
really?
one day, I said, I don't know if you're aware of the use of your name in modern pop culture. And she went, I've never heard that. So anyway.
And actually, that's my character that says it in the movie.
That is your character. Yeah. And I want to talk about the movie and all that too at some point just to get your thoughts on it. But Rangers have the mission of going in and securing some high-value targets, or securing the scene so that Delta can secure the high-value targets. You're part of the flight in. Who were you bringing in, by the way?
So I was the flight lead, which means I'm responsible for my whole flight of aircraft of the Ranger blocking force. So it's basically split into two pieces. We had the assault force, which is where the Delta guys are. They're primarily on little birds. Yeah. And they're going to go in first because they want the element of surprise. They want to be, busting doors down before, with limited amount of time to react, right? If you put the blocking force in first, then you bring the assault force in, the bad guys have a little bit more time to react. So they're going in first. We're right behind them. So as soon as their birds pull out, we're moving in, and I had 4 Blackhawks that made up the blocking force, plus 2 spare attack little birds, plus the search and rescue birds. So we're all coming in together on the second wave, basically. And we just set up a box. I mean, all they want is put a Ranger platoon on each corner, and the purpose is twofold. One, keep more bad guys from getting in, and then obviously we call them leakers, keeping the people you're after from getting out. And that all went pretty smoothly, even though we'd done it 6 times before. This was the 7th mission.
Right.
And, we had tremendous success. We had captured, I think, 27 people on a list of 50, taken no casualties of any significance. We didn't lose any birds. I mean, it was all going pretty well. There were 3-day missions and 3-night missions leading up to that. And this 7th mission is a day mission, which created some risk factors that we knew about, but, not my call.
Part of the job.
But, yeah, the commander makes the call.
Right.
They're within tolerance, I guess you could say, and when we go. And then all hell broke loose.
Yeah, it got crazy on the ground pretty quick, didn't it?
It did.
I know we had one Ranger injured on the fast rope end, and that created the scene. And then I guess the all call went out, and it seemed like everybody in Mogadishu had an AK-47, and they all ran to the scene.
And that was their strategy, which we found out later. They actually had set up a system where once they knew where we were hitting the target, and again, they learned this over time, right? When I talk about this, I try to compare it to sports, right? If you keep running the same play, the defense is going to adapt to that play, right? They understand, okay, this formation means this is what they're going to do, so here's how we counter that. It works the same way in the military. And so having done it 6 times, they obviously understood, okay, the helicopters all go to a target. That's where, they're going to put people on the ground. They're going to try to apprehend folks. If we can pin them in there, then, we might have some chance of
Plus, they were blocking roads, so
Right.
the ground convoy was having trouble.
Yep. So we found out after that was their strategy. Once they knew where the target was, they were all going to close on it, and it worked pretty well, actually.
Well, the Blackhawks stayed on station. In fact, one thing I've never known is what was the purpose of y'all? If there's going to be a ground convoy for the exfil, what was the purpose of y'all remaining on station like you did?
So we kept 2 attack little birds and 2 Blackhawks over the target for fire support. So
Okay.
the little birds, they've got miniguns and rockets,
Right.
and they're going to be slightly further out in terms of their restricted fire areas. Where the Blackhawks were being used, and honestly, hindsight being 2020, it wasn't a great way to do this. and it's not being done anymore, at least not in urban environments. They were being used for both the miniguns, which I don't think they used the miniguns a lot, but they had snipers on board. So it's a great stable platform for the shooter, but it's a 50-something foot long target for people on the ground that have weapons. Mm-hmm. And you can't fly fast, because if you're flying fast, your shooter can't hit anything. So the speed is less than what you would fly if you were, just trying to avoid fire. We're probably flying 50 knots, right? Which may seem fast to someone on the ground, but that's really slow for an aircraft. Mm-hmm. And it makes the aircraft
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 3 on a Taco Tuesday. It's often about the food, which makes me hungry now that I think about it. Listen, I got to tell you too, I got a lot going on in the next few days, but I also want to make sure y'all know this has been the joy of my life. So as we hit hour number 3, let me just remind you guys again, this is my last full week on the show, as we move towards the, what I would call the next phase of Rightside Radio, Rightside Media being the parent company that has podcasting and everything else too. And the new voice, we'll be announcing all that tomorrow. The new voice will be here tomorrow. So stand by for that. Me, at the other hand, I'm in a position, I sort of feel like I get where Dan Bongino was at. Bongino, had that moment where God opened a door and the president called and he felt like he had to step into it. Now he's at the FBI, he's at DOJ. Well, President Trump has nominated me to be the next U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Alabama, which is a huge, huge honor. I did not see this coming. It is something that if you had asked me a year ago, I might have laughed. But God has a way of opening doors that you just cannot deny. And the lovely Charlene and I really prayed through and wrestled with this idea. And we decided, again, God opened a door and the president called, and we're going to step into it. So I'm looking at things this week like this is my last Taco Tuesday. Tomorrow is my last Grand Council. We got Butters and Lee later in the week, JP on sports, just all these things. I'm thinking, oh, that's my last one. And there will be, I want to say this to my listeners. You guys have been a blessing to me. Today's a perfect example. I mean, not to go into it, but the morning was like stressful and filled with things that I was trying to sort of like fit square pegs in round holes, and just came into the studio grumpy. Grumpy Phil showed up, and being with y'all for 3 hours changes the dynamic. It's happened multiple times in the last 4.5 years where me personally, I get blessed by y'all. I come on the air trying to do something for you guys, and I wind up being the one who gets blessed. And it's been that way for 4.5 years. You guys have constantly been part of the fabric of our lives. Charlene and I refer to y'all, just so you know, we refer to y'all as our Rightside family. And there's a number of you that have become friends that we have met in person because you were first a voice or a text that we connected with through the show. And so I got a lot of memories. I got a lot of opportunities. And I got a lot of things that I'll treasure going forward. But yes, we are going to step into this new role. I want you guys, though, to embrace who comes next. I'm asking you, if I've ever asked for anything, I'm asking you for that. JP is still going to be here. And the next voice that takes this microphone, I am asking you to embrace it fully. If you give them even half of what you gave me in terms of support and love and participation in the show, then it's gonna go just like next level gangbusters. So all I'm saying is there's a story behind what's about to happen. I can't wait to tell you in more detail because to me it's one of those things like you couldn't script this in a movie. Listen, I don't want to get like kind of cringy. But I'm going to tell you right now, it came together like a Hallmark script, if that makes any sense. It's kind of wacky, but there it is. That being said, Phil and Charlene still got a lot of moving parts we got to take care of, and we're taking care of them as we go. But this is my last full week on the air with you guys. I'll probably pop in here and there, but that'll be up to the new voice. And not that they're holding me out. I'm just saying it's going to be, the new voice is going to have its own flavor, its own style, and things might get said differently or with a different tone. All I'm saying is I am fully satisfied with the voice that's taking the microphone, because it's not just about what we put in place from a business sense. For Charlene and I, this is an ideological passion. This is something that we believe in, and we wanted somebody to take the microphone who was going to come in with the same passion and heart and desire and conservative Christian worldview that we have. And I'm satisfied that that's about to happen. So that being said, there's my soliloquy on what's going on. But yeah. I got to take some text messages. Let me do that real quick. Roxanne from Harvest. Congratulations, prayers. The Lord watch over you on your new journey. You'll be greatly missed. God bless you. Thank you, Roxanne. I appreciate that more than you can know. Dana from Athens says, every senator that voted no, talking about the defund or the not opening of government, every senator that voted no should be defunded, and that money should be used to pay essential workers. Yeah. I will say this. Let me give props to our Alabama U.S. delegation. They have all opted out of their pay, because you can do that. You can direct the admin office for the legislature to actually cut your pay. Just so you know, when I was in the state Senate, there were, I think, 3 of us. The Democrats had given themselves a massive pay raise before the Republicans took the state house back. And the Democrats had given themselves this massive pay raise. I was one of the ones who ran against the pay raise. And so because I ran against it, I never took my full pay. And I actually directed that my pay be curtailed. I was one of the few that did it. I could have made more money. It would have made more sense. I'm sure the lovely Charlene would have liked a bigger paycheck. I think there was times when I would have too. But the reality is, on a matter of principle, myself and 3 others, we chose not to take our full pay because we believed the pay raise they had put in place was wrong. I was also the guy who went to the microphone and carried the bill through to a vote to cut our own pay when the time came. All that to say, it can happen. And you've got U.S. delegation members in Alabama right now. I know Katie Britt did. I think all of them have chosen not to take their pay while you're not getting paid. So just keep that in mind. By the way, any Democrats doing that? I don't know. Can you Google that while we're talking? Are there any Democrat members of Congress or the Senate not taking their pay during the shutdown? Maybe Fetterman? I don't know. We'll see.
I'll have to look up and see right now.
I don't know, man. I'll take a couple more texts and I'll get to a phone call real quick. Mark from Red Bay says, I think anyone seeking office state level above should be born in the U.S. Okay, there you go. Shorty from Anderson says, hey, Phil, have you heard the news that over half of Walmart stores are going to be closed November 1st and you can only shop online or use curbside? I have not heard that. Due to the fact the SNAP program may come to an, I mean, if Walmart relies solely on SNAP to the point they're closing all right. Tell you what, Shorty, if you got a story like a news source that actually quotes that, I'd like to see it. Send me the link. I would be shocked to find that to be the case. Jeff from Indiana says, Phil, the problem in this country is so many people, unlike us, do not pay attention to anything other than I'm not getting my benefits. Oh, it must be the Republicans because the Democrats will take care of me. And that's what the Democrats are hoping for is ignorant voters. Always. Steve from Tennessee just texted, said, Phil, I'm happy for you and the U.S., but I regret that I've never met you in person. I'll work on that. God bless. Steve, very mutual, and thank you. Jay from Killen said, could they be using the shutdown to get out the dim votes next week? People aren't at work, so they have time to vote. Then again, it might backfire on them.
So I'm seeing a list here of the senators that have and the congressmen that have declined their pay during the shutdown. I'm just reading through the list here, trying to see DR or whatever. But the only D I'm seeing right now is Josh Gottheimer of New Jersey. There could be some others since then.
Are there a lot of R's?
Yeah. Lindsey Graham. These are just some I'm seeing off the top. Lindsey Graham, Kat Kamick, of Florida, Ralph Norman of South Carolina, Bernie Moreno of Ohio. And this article was October 3rd, by the way.
Yeah.
So probably some more since then.
Cool. I got a call real quick. Let me take it for the break, and I got to go to a break in about a minute and a half. David from Huntsville. Hey, David, how are you?
Hey, Phil, this is David from Cortland, Alabama. But
Yeah.
just wanted to wish you all just a great journey from here on out. I really enjoyed your show, and it's made my day so many times, and you guys have made such a difference listening to it every day. And I just wanted to give you my email address so you can keep in touch with me.
Well, good. I tell you what, if you don't mind, text that in because we don't want to give it away on the air. But if you text that in the same number, same number. Yep, just text it the same. Yeah, text it the same number you just called. It'll come right to us.
Okay, and I'll give you my phone number too because I love to meet you and I love to keep in touch with you, and I'm really proud of you. My brother's a lawyer.
Well, good. Well, good. I appreciate it, David. Thank you, man. I appreciate you being part of the show, man. Thanks very much.
Well, thanks so much, Don. Talking to you, and tell JP that same thing. Gosh, I'd love to meet him as well, and all the best.
All right,
God
man.
bless you.
All
Likewise.
right. Have a great day. Thanks for calling, man. All right, we're taking a break. That's it. We ran right up to the break time. We'll take that break. Come right back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Vulnerable to ground fire.
And how far above ground were you?
Very low. I mean,
Okay.
the Blackhawks had to stay 150 feet and below,
Okay.
and the Little Birds, I think, were 300 feet and above, which worked out great. I mean, we'd done it, I mean, at that point, probably 50 times counting rehearsals, and never had any close calls in terms of mid-airs.
Were you just flying racetracks?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we had, when I was in Baghdad in 2004, I can remember being on a cordon search mission in Sadr City area, and they had changed all the TTPs because the racetracks got predictable, apparently, for ground fire, and so they were flying figure eights, and they were also altitude changes, and they had gone through all kinds of machinations to try and make sure the bad guys on the ground didn't have a predictable means of assessing, where the flight was going to be.
Right. Now, my flight, because I'm not one of these 4 aircrafts over the target. I've already gone in, and I put my guys on the ground. But I took my flight north of the city for exactly what you're talking about. And one of the guys criticized me. He said, "Hey, we need to stay closer to the target so we can see what's going on." And I'm like, "No, we're a contingency force at this point. I'm going north of the city where there's no threat, because if we're just doing circles up there, why would I want to be right here in the middle of this fight and put our entire flight at risk?" And it was obviously the right decision to do what I decided to do. So I've got my flight, and I'm north of the city. Now, north of the city is not a long distance. It's probably a mile.
Right.
And we're up there orbiting basically on standby. I mean, when you got assets like that, if you could keep them on hand as a ground force, keep them on hand, right? Because you never know when you might need some kind of helo support. And then I get called back in when the first Blackhawk gets shot down.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So you were flying what, Super 6-4?
Right.
And Super 6-1, your friend Donovan, right?
Right.
So he's the first one to go down.
And Cliff Walcott.
Yeah, and Cliff Walcott. And then you were, I think you were directed in to replace him.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, we didn't have a sniper on board. So we're going in simply to use our minigun down close to try to provide fire support for the guys on the ground. That's what our mission has now become, which that was not our mission prior to that. But again, you adapt and you do what needs to be done to try to help the force that you're supporting.
And you've got a full crew?
4, yeah. 2 crew chiefs and 2 pilots.
All right, so Super 6-1 is down. What do you remember about Super 6-1, hearing it over the air, and recognizing that one of them's already down?
Yeah, I mean, I've always called myself an eternal optimist. It never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that Cliff and Donovan would be dead. I just assumed that, they took a round, they're going down, they're going to land the aircraft somewhere, we'll get them recovered, and we'll all go debrief this thing when this is over. But obviously now we've lost a bird, which is the first time that this happens for us. There had been another Blackhawk shot down by 10th Mountain Division previously with some fatalities, but it wasn't our unit. And it, I've always used the phrase "big sky, little bullet." You don't think it can necessarily happen to you until there's enough volume of fire where it's going to happen to you. And there's also a search and rescue bird shot down in the middle of all this that then heightens that even more, because now they've shot down 2 aircraft in about 5 minutes, and we're going into this fray. You know, this is getting real really fast. And you know, I remember telling the crew chiefs, because I've got control of their guns from up front, so I've got an arming switch, and I armed the guns, and I said, okay, you're armed, but we got friendlies all over the ground down here, so we can't go in here just blasting away. You know, when we see bad guys, we got to get situationally aware, so we know where all of our forces are before you start launching 6,000 rounds a minute downrange.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in an urban environment, I don't want to say it's impossible, but right on the rooftops, it's really difficult to sort all that out, because first of all, they're all taking cover. So, you know, they're not standing out there waving at you. They're all taking cover. So trying to figure out where everybody was would have probably taken us a while. In the end, we only made it around 3 times when we got nailed by an RPG.
So RPG to the tail rotor, right?
Right.
In the movie, and later I want to get your thoughts on the movie, like I said, but in the movie there's a scene where you took the RPG to the tail rotor, but initially you thought it was going to be okay until you started getting some play in the pedals and stuff like that. So what were your first thoughts, and how did that I mean?
Well, I knew we were hit, and I always tell people, if you want to know what it feels like, drive too fast in a parking lot and hit a speed bump. That's what it felt like. It felt like a jolt to the airframe, because you don't see it. Usually, what they were doing is they let us fly by, and then they.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, so I got a choice to make. Somehow or another, home fries and stories related to it just lasted for like over 2 hours. How did that happen?
There were some other pontifications thrown in there as well.
There was a bit of chatter.
I mean, the whole first 3 segments was just talking about poo paper. So
that's true. We did talk a lot about poo paper.
Yeah.
If you missed today's monologue, you're going to want to go back and get it. So today was one of those, like, anyway, I'm rather proud of it. But the entire premise is that we live in the greatest nation on earth. Why do I know? Because we're a nation that can actually get ultra soft, easy tear poo paper. Mm-hmm. Just saying. If you're a nation that has that, it's a nation worth fighting for. All right, let's do this. I'm gonna jump into what was going to be Dipper number 3, Immigration Nation. There's a story that Charlene pointed out to me this morning that I had not seen until she, caught my attention with it. We are watching the ramifications of illegal immigration play out just like left and right, and the second and third order effects of what the Biden administration caused by having basically no border policies whatsoever, are I think still being felt for, and it will be for years. But one of the stories that she pointed out to me this morning was what the trucking industry has been dealing with. So if you're not familiar with this, in this particular case, we're watching the trucking industry still trying to recover from COVID. And I'm like, why? One particular owner said that during COVID, when everything began to kind of shut down, and then of course you had all of the Pete Buttigieg couldn't get the supply chain issues fixed for the longest time because he was too busy taking maternity leave or whatever. It's true, he did.
I know it's and he actually had like artificial breastfeeding.
Was that real? By the way?
Yes, it was real.
God, yeah. Okay, wow. Anyway. That's a whole other dipper. All right. But anyway, so the bottom line is, by the way, I saw the other day that somebody said, here's our Pete and there's their Pete. And they had Hexeth versus Buttigieg. And I thought, what? I don't know that I'd go there if I were y'all.
No.
Okay. That's enough of that. But the bottom line is the supply chain disruptions, the COVID shutdowns, and this particular trucking industry magnate who said they never got all their contracts back. They think they couldn't, like the trucking industry was like never catching up, and he's trying to figure out why. And then what he said he discovered more recently during the Trump administration is investigations have begun to show that illegals are being given commercial driver's licenses, and they are undercutting the trucking industry, bidding low on jobs. And so basically illegals are on the road right now, driving 18-wheelers and shipping freight, and they're doing it in such a way that it's actually having an impact on the industry as a whole. That is just absolutely not right. Now, there are other issues with this. One of the things that we've seen is that, and there was even a story on the air I was watching on the screen a little while ago, is that we are finding so often that California in particular is issuing commercial driver's licenses to people who don't even speak English. Okay, I want to ask this question. How do you read the street signs? How do you know where to turn? How do you recognize how to get your bill of lading taken care of? What do you do at weigh stations if you don't speak the language? Like, you can't even identify, or for that matter, you've never passed the same test that somebody else had to pass to get a CDL. Because CDL is no small thing. Maybe Jeff from Indiana call in later on and tell us what it's like to get a CDL. There's requirements, and you got to maintain it. And yet we got drivers out there on the road right now that don't know a stop sign from a yield sign, doing U-turns where no U-turns allowed. People are dying. And I'm thinking, that's got to stop. We're seeing Immigration Nation still playing out in places like that. It's also, by the way, still a very hot topic. So I got a piece here from Daily Wire. Dateline yesterday. It says ICE makes a major arrest in Northern Virginia as immigration becomes a hot topic in the governor's race. So this particular race we've got in Virginia between Winsome Sears and what's her name, Spanberger. Immigration has once again become a thing. In this particular case, an El Salvadoran national who's been deported from the United States 3 times was arrested on October 17th by ICE in Arlington, Virginia. It's unknown when or where Carlos Ramirez Guzman entered the country most recently, but he was booted out in 2006, 2014, and 2016, and he's currently now in ICE custody. He is also being held on charges including aggravated assault with a deadly weapon on a law enforcement officer, domestic battery, exhibition of a dangerous weapon, resisting. I got a whole string of charges. What we're looking at right now, though, is that this is becoming an election issue. Northern Virginia has become a hotbed, it says, for ICE arrests since efforts started during the second Trump term, including in Arlington and Fairfax counties. And while Democrat leaders in the state have been pushing back, Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin actually signed an executive order to allow state and locals to participate in the federal immigration operations. It has now become a thing in the campaign for governor. If you think that the illegal immigration issue is dying down, you're wrong. The other thing that's very interesting, I pulled this up for you. Town Hall has a piece. Apparently, the Trump administration has decided that some of their ICE offices were dragging their feet. So there's been a leadership shakeup. Last night, 12 ICE field office chiefs in places like Los Angeles, Phoenix, Philadelphia, Denver, El Paso, San Diego, Seattle, Portland, New Orleans, they were all relieved of their duties. That's a major shakeup. That's 12 major field office leadership positions that were just vacated because it's felt that they were not moving quick enough on the deportation and detainer issues that the Trump administration has made a priority. I got more on this. I got more. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Phil Williams here. I want to remind you that Inspire Advisors is one of our sponsors, and they are doing amazing work. Look, I know this audience. You're the kind of folks who believe in standing up for your principles. You're good stewards of your resources. But what if the companies you were investing in don't reflect your values at all? Well, that's why you need to meet Paul Breyer and his team at Inspire Advisors, because Inspire Advisors, they are experts in the field of biblically responsible investing. They can help you grow your bottom line while also be proud of what companies you're investing in. Inspire Advisors, check them out. Their website, www.moneypatternwealth.com, and tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio.
From the doorway and shoot. So you're probably not going to see the launch. The crew chief might see it depending if they're looking in the right direction. And then the reason they hit both of us in the tail is they're not leading us enough. So that 50 knot magical speed was just ballistically perfect for them to shoot at I'm sure they're aiming for center mass.
Which the crazy thing is an RPG is not usually designed to take out aircraft.
No,
I mean,
but if you fire enough of them, eventually, they say they fired 150 at us on that mission. Now, not just at me, but on that mission. That's how many RPGs.
I never heard that. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, they went all in. They thought we want to bring down a helicopter, and they were successful. So anyway, back to your question. Initially, I feel like I hit a speed bump, knew we were hit. I can see the airfield. It's 2 miles ahead of us. And looking in the cockpit, everything's okay. Controls were all responding. But what had happened was the gearbox had been blown apart, and it's like a transmission in your car, right? If you blow your transmission apart,
you ain't going anywhere.
Not for very long. Once those
gears
run without oil for any period of time, they're going to self-destruct, and that's what happened. And then when the tail rotor left the aircraft, again, that's impossible to describe. If you haven't experienced it, I can't describe it. I mean, it's just violent spin of the aircraft, out of control.
What do they call that? Counter rotation or something, where you're trying to restore stability?
Well, the tail rotor is there to counter the torque of the main rotor system. Again, if you think about a drill, people are familiar with that. You pull the trigger, you can feel it want to turn. That's torque. So the same thing's happening to a helicopter, obviously with a lot more force. The tail rotor is mounted horizontally to push against that force that's wanting the airframe to spin. Once that tail rotor is gone, there's nothing. So essentially, if you were left unaffected by anything else, what would eventually happen is the airframe, minus wind drag, obviously, would be spinning as fast as the rotor blades are in the opposite direction. Yeah. That's essentially once it reached equilibrium. That will never happen, but that's how much force you're talking about here. And I remember looking at my feet, trying to convince myself, you're doing the right thing in terms of which pedal you're pushing, but it is having no effect on the aircraft. And then I'm like, okay, we lost the tail rotor. Again, this is something you can't train that. There's no, you can't do it in a simulator. I mean, we can do a loss of tail rotor in a simulator, but you can't do the violent effects, the physical violent effects of the airframe in a simulator. But I knew what had happened, and the only thing you can do is shut the engines off, because again, that's what's creating that torque. So if you can remove that force, it'll stop that spin, but now you have no engines. Yeah. So that's not good either, especially at low altitude. But it's what you have to do. You can't possibly maintain control of the aircraft if it's just spinning out of control. So in a Black Hawk, we don't have control of the engines on the flight controls. So the co-pilot or the non-flying pilot has to shut the engines off. So I looked over at Ray and I said, we lost the tail. We better pull them off. And he knew. He was an experienced guy. I actually had more experience than I did, and pulled the engines off. But we're spinning so fast that he said, and we talked about it on the ground afterwards, typical instructor pilots. He said, we're spinning so fast, the centrifugal force was causing him to not be able to lift his arms up over his head, which is where the engine power control levers are. So he got one to idle and got one about halfway off, which slowed the spin but didn't stop it. And now, with no engine.
Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, this show goes like from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. I am talking about from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we call now, once again, Fort Benning. Big old patches of North Georgia, Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. Yeah, and that's just the radio. And then, oh, by the way, there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web, logging in on the live stream, logging in on audio and video live streaming on places like X, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then there's all you guys that podcast it, tons of you, who, by the way, JP tells me means we're going to have somewhere around 365,000 downloads of this show's podcast by the end of the week. That's massive. We appreciate it. All that to say, we can see where you are, and wherever you're catching the show, the fact that you do is just, it means the world to us. And thank you very much. We appreciate you. You about to say something? I saw you grabbing the mic. What you got?
I was just going to say it could be even before the end of the week. 364
Sweet.
or 365,000.
Sweet. Bring it. Keep me posted, man. That's like a celebration moment.
It is.
Real quick, I'm in this Dipper Immigration Nation, and I'm trying to point out to you that despite the fact that there's other stories that are taken, like, government shutdown, granted, yeah, Israel, peace agreement, yeah. I mean, all that stuff, I get it. But let's not forget what's happening out there. And let's not forget, by the way, what we just went through for the last 4 years with millions, tens of millions pouring across our border unfettered. Got a story on 1819 News. It just came out. In fact, it just came out like a little while ago. Actually, last night. I'm sorry. I hadn't seen it till just now. An illegal alien has been arrested in Morgan County. That's the Decatur area. Arrested in Morgan County following an investigation into local online sexual predators. So this guy is an illegal alien who was caught in a sting trying to communicate sexually with a child and maybe travel there to meet the child for sex. That is, listen, get those guys off the street. Not only that, he's illegal. So it's still going. I've got a story here. Hang on, where did it go? Oh yeah, this is it. This is interesting. The Federalist has a story that came out today. I hold it right here in my calloused former paratrooper hands. The Federalist, Dateline today, says nearly half of all state attorneys general have asked the Supreme Court of the United States to end birthright citizenship. That's a big deal. I don't think birthright citizenship was ever intended to be what it has become. The whole idea of anchor babies has been a discussion point now for a number of years, but it's when you consider the tens of millions who flooded our border, it takes on an entire new meaning. Are we really going to say that our laws can be ignored in mass and that they can then have their child become a citizen? So attorneys general of 24 states, by the way, you can imagine those are the Republican-led states. 24 states filed a brief with the U.S. Supreme Court supporting the Trump administration's attempt to stop the invasion through illegal loophole of birthright citizenship. President Trump signed an executive order on his first day in office, interpreting the 14th Amendment, discarding left-wing arguments about birthright citizenship. And then, of course, Washington, Arizona, Illinois, and Oregon all filed suit to try and protect illegals over Americans. But Tennessee, by the way, Tennessee's Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti is been on the record, a lot like Steve Marshall has, as being super conservative, fighting for conservative values. Where Skrmetti said the idea that citizenship is guaranteed to everyone born in the United States is not square with the plain language of the 14th Amendment or the way many government officials and legal analysts understood the law when it was first adopted after the Civil War. If you look at the law at the time, citizenship attached to kids whose parents were lawfully in the country. Each child born in this country is precious no matter their parents' immigration status, but not every child is entitled to American citizenship. This case could allow the Supreme Court to resolve a constitutional question with far-reaching implications for the states and our nation. Y'all, that's going to be massive. If they take this up, and if this is something that is going to be decided, listen, we're waiting, but the Supreme Court ends up taking up this case, and they rule that the Constitution never contemplated illegal parents could have legal children, game changer. The whole dynamic changes. I did want to make you aware of some things the Trump administration is doing. Let me find it. Here it is. First of all, just so you know, now granted, we're in the government shutdown, so everything's on pause. However, early this month, right before the shutdown started, the Department of Homeland Security announced the first wave of border wall contracts have been funded. And some of this will go on anyway because the funding already existed. It's just being announced now who the winners were. But throughout September, it says 10 contracts totaling approximately $4.5 billion were awarded to support construction of the so-called Smart Wall. They're going to be building it in California, New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas. The smart wall, by the way, means it's going to have land barriers, water obstacles, patrol roads, and technology. And it's going to be basically they're looking at 230 more miles of smart wall being added to our current barriers on the southern border. So they're still doing it. They're still doing it. They're still doing it. I will also point out that the Foundation for American Immigration Reform has a piece that came out last week. Yeah, last week. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem announced a surge of U.S. Coast Guard assets. Aha! Brown Water Coast Guard. That's where we are. Just like having a brown water Navy in Vietnam, we got a brown water Coast Guard right now. They're calling it Operation Riverwall. The Coast Guard's going to be deploying over 100 boats and hundreds of personnel to bolster the forces along the Rio Grande. So how about that? Any coasties out there, give me your thoughts on that. It's not just an open water Coast Guard. Brown water Coast Guard right there guarding the Rio Grande and protecting the southern border. That's huge. And listen, all I'm trying to say is the immigration issues are still being dealt with, and they're being dealt with affirmatively. The Trump administration has never once let up, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. All right, let me go to the phones real quick. I see Tammy from Huntsville. Hey, Tammy, how are you?
Hey, I'm sorry I called so late in the show, but I just got off of work. But the cost is unfathomable of what illegal aliens have done to our country. Yesterday, I heard a podcast with two guys from a married couple from Puerto Rico, illegal aliens in the United States, were running up credit card debt. They would max out a card and then just get rid of it, and with their fake ID, open up another credit card.
Wow.
They bought cars, they bought everything, took trips. And that debt is just eaten up and sucked up by the American people. We have to pay the cost of that.
That's exactly right.
That's times 1,000.
Yeah, those scams that run deep right now. By the way, too, they're finding a lot of those kind of scams too, like in sanctuary cities where they were giving away free benefits. Those benefits became sold on the black market and everything else. It's ridiculous.
Yes. So I just wanted to add that. I just saw that yesterday. I didn't even think of something like that.
Yeah, no kidding. Tammy, thanks for the call. Appreciate you.
So much, and congratulations.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Great audience. David, no, sorry, not that one. Lee from Huntsville says, high offices being held by natural born citizens prevents divided loyalties and foreign influences. We must make this happen. Okay. There's our own Lee from Huntsville saying it.
By the way, we got a comment on the YouTube here. It says, it's Marty from Clay, Alabama. It says, I have a CDL license, and you have to have a physical every year, every 2 years to keep up with that. Plus, the nose, everything I do. My question is, how are they getting around all the regulations?
I don't know. I mean, I think basically California is just does California. You know what I'm saying? So they're putting people on the road who aren't qualified.
And it's killing people.
And it's also ruining the industry. Nofre from Lexington. Nofre says, I've been driving for 37 years and we have to keep a good driving record. We have to be fingerprinted every 4 years with background checks. We have to pass hazardous materials tests every 4 years, pass a physical every 2 years, and stay up to date with logs and ever-changing laws. Our roads are flooded with dangerous people behind the wheel of these trucks. Yes, indeed. And I'm not going to be surprised. Some of them don't even have a CDL, to be honest with you. I bet you some of them just get behind the wheel and drive because, they drove in whatever country they came from, so they think they can drive here.
Well, there's a video that went viral this past week of this truck driver who was filming inside his cab, and he was driving down. I think they were coming up on like a way station or a toll or something, and there was a truck in his side of the road going the opposite direction, an 18-wheeler, and the guy pulls up beside him and rolls down his window and says, "What are you doing, man?" And it was I don't know if he was legal or illegal, but it was an immigrant driving the other truck, and said, "Oh, I was supposed to be going that way. And was act like he didn't even know how to drive." And the guy says, "Hey, man, this is the other side of the road. I don't care what your reasoning is. You can't be driving on this side." He goes, "Oh, okay. Well, what should I do? Do you think?" He goes, "Turn around and go the right way, and then come back this way, the legal route." Wow. But it's like, how many of those instances are there out there? And like I said, I don't know that guy's, immigration status, but it was clear that he was not from America. It's just, that's kind of important to have people who know what they're doing in those trucks.
It really is. It really is. It's amazing to me. Okay. I don't think we're going to know for years how much damage was done by the Biden administration's lack of immigration policies. By the way, I got a long text. I see it from Aaron from Madison. Aaron, thank you very much for that. I will take it. I'll check it out, and I appreciate you sending it. Dana from Athens says, and yes, said New York issued them. Oh yeah, I did see this. She said every New York issued them with quote no name given as the name on the license, and yes, these are CDL licenses. I saw that. There was a story. I saw the actual imagery of it, where the guy's license was given to him by a sanctuary state. In this case, it was New York, and it didn't even have his name on it. In fact, where it should have had his name, it said no name given. So you're walking around with a card that says no name given, and that was okay, and they still issued it. I look at that and think, is there anyone out there who can go, well, this makes sense to me and I understand it? No. What you would have to have a complete suspension of belief for that to happen. David at Bucky's, he's talking about the toilet paper. He says, Phil, right now you get either ultra soft or extra strong, but not both. He said, Phil, a few years ago, it was 6 rolls equals 12. Next thing I saw, it was 6 rolls equals 11. I may still have the pick I took. My question then was, is it changed due to inflation or the new math? Are they teaching in schools?
Yeah, the picture is 6 super rolls equals 11 regular rolls.
I don't understand. But yes, toilet paper math does not listen, if you have to use toilet paper math to calculate the range and trajectory for a launch to the moon, you're not getting to the moon. I'm just saying. All right, let's go ahead and take a break right now. Last break of the day. We'll come right back and put a wrap on it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We're falling out of the sky like a Coke machine. And all I could do is try to keep the aircraft from flipping upside down, which, again, I don't know if anything I did made a difference, honestly, but all I can tell you is we crashed right on the wheels. And that's the only reason I'm still here.
All right. So you're on impact. Now, you said something on the ground. Did Ray make it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We all survived the crash.
Okay.
The crew chiefs were hurt really bad because they don't, first of all, they don't have as good as seats, at least in that version of the aircraft. It's been improved since. And they're probably not strapped in, meaning, they operate on what we call monkey harnesses back there.
Yeah.
So they're on a strap, but they're not strapped into their seats, which have, all of this crash survivability.
I use those as a jump master in Blackhawks.
Because it allows you to move around and do the things you need to do. And, you get in the seat when you have to land. Well, they didn't, obviously we're not planning to land, so they're probably not strapped in, or at least not likely that they're both strapped in. So, that violent crash, they were probably not going to make it. But Ray, he was not hurt as bad as I was. And we're talking, once I regained consciousness, we're talking about what happened, and there was no reason to talk about what happened. We should have been talking about, hey, the heck, we're going to survive the next 5 minutes here. But we did, and that's when he explained what he had tried to do. And then he was able to get himself out of the cockpit. There's no way I could get out. I had a femur fracture, crushed vertebrae in my spine. It's hard to get out of a Black Hawk cockpit when you're healthy. Mm-hmm. With those injuries, there's no way. So I just thought, I'm just going to fight it out from the cockpit.
I did not recall that your co-pilot had made it, but they didn't survive. Am I correct?
Well, they were killed in a firefight. Yeah,
they're all killed in the firefight. Yeah, I remember that now. All right, you're still stuck in the cockpit. I remember. I'm assuming it was when I read it that you had a kind of an off the books weapon. Didn't you have an MP5 or something like that? Mm-hmm. Was that standard issue, or was that
for us?
Yeah, it was. Okay.
Yeah, we used the MP5. They don't use it anymore, I don't think. But that was our we had an M9 pistol and an MP5.
So you wound up having to engage targets yourself while you're on the ground in the cockpit?
Actually, not from the cockpit. That's one area where Black Hawk Down deviates from what actually happened. I did consult a little bit on the movie, but really not much. I guess if they're going to exaggerate something and make you look better than you actually were, that's a good thing. But yeah, they have me, blasting away from the cockpit. It was amazing how quickly Gary Gordon and Randy Sugart got to the cockpit. There were no Somalis there yet. And that's why I hadn't fired any rounds. I had my MP5. I was ready to go, but nobody had showed up. And then all of a sudden, Gary and Randy are standing next to the cockpit. And I'm like, wow, this is over. There's a rescue force here.
Which is an amazing story in itself. I mean, both of them wound up with the Medal of Honor posthumously. But I recall reading that they both requested 7 times to be put on the ground, knowing full well that there was only going to be 2 of them and no telling how long till any guys on the Rangers got there.
You're right about all of that. And again, I only know about it secondhand because obviously I'm not on the aircraft with them. But they were told initially no, and eventually convinced the leadership that if they were not let in, we were lost. And, you don't know what's in the mind of someone else, but they had to know, hey, this is going to be dicey at a minimum, because it took 8 hours for another American to get to our crash site.
Yeah, which is crazy when you think about the fact that as you were going down, you could see the airfield roughly 2 miles away, and yet it took 8 hours for anybody to get there.
And it's because, well, we were resource constrained, and there were so many things happening. You had 6-1's crash site, you had the convoy, you had the target, now you had my crash site. So really, the commander's got 4 things that he's got to deal with, and he didn't even really have the resources for one.
By the way, I'm going to chase a rabbit real quick. I don't know if you heard this yet, but the whole base renaming thing that happened.
I was going to bring this up
about Gary Gordon.
Yeah. And it's a brilliant solution. And I just read it a couple days ago.
Yeah. For those who don't know, that Fort Gordon was one of the names that nobody knew was apparently tied to a Confederate. I didn't know that Benning was. I didn't know that Rucker was. I just went and trained there, as I'm sure you probably did. But Fort Gordon got renamed to something, but Fort Gordon's getting its name back for your rescuer, Gary Gordon.
Right.
Yeah. That's I think that's pretty. Now we got to find a Fort Shugart somewhere.
Yeah. They might have to create one. Yeah.
What do you recall about Shugart and Gordon being on the ground? I mean, I've read their story separately. I've read it in your book, but give me. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower, y'all. Karen from Tony, Alabama, checked in and said, blessings to you and your family as you begin your new journey. You'll be greatly missed. Karen, thank you. Y'all will be missed, I think, more than me. Just go love on the new voice when the new voice is announced tomorrow. And I appreciate that very much. John from Huntsville has the grades in. Says JP gets an A++ for his nearly perfect performance, which means today's co-winners with a perfect A++ are obviously Phil Williams and Wes Allen for their equally brilliant performances and spot-on comments. Congratulations. John from Huntsville, thank you, man. All right, let me jump on the phone right now because you know who's there. Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Hey, buddy, where are you?
About 25 miles north of Bowling Green, Kentucky. Easy sailing. There's hardly any traffic.
Woo! What is going on?
Yeah.
That's good. You're flying today.
Yeah, I got through Nashville without having too much trouble for a change. If you get there at the right time, sometimes that happens.
Well, good deal. All right. Well, cool. Hey, man, listen, you're the expert on this, but what are your thoughts on all this stuff about illegals and people who can't speak English, whether they're illegal or not, getting CDLs or at the very least, just, grabbing a rig and starting to drive?
Well, everything has changed so much since I started. I mean, back whenever I started, you could get a what they call a chauffeur's license at 18, which I did, just to drive a truck. And there wasn't no training or anything else. You had to answer a few more questions on the test or whatever you had to pass. But then CDLs came in, and then I had to get one of those. And to do that, you had to go through a test back then. You didn't take driver's training. But now you have to have, according to what I'm seeing, you have to have a certified instructor, and pass a course. You have to take a course. You have to have a physical exam. You have to pass a skills test and everything now to get a CDL. So how these people are getting CDLs in California without being a citizen and without basically having, well, I guess they give them California driver's license. Yeah. They can say, well, I've already got a driver's license, so that's how they do that, I guess.
Well, so
but,
Let me ask you
how
this
you
real
pass.
quick. Is this, and I don't know the answer, so I'm just asking you, are states, do they have states have left their own version of CDLs, or is CDL uniform nationwide?
CDL should be uniform nationwide from what I understand. Now it's a federal program instead of state.
Okay.
The
All right.
state has the training facilities and stuff like that, but it's a federal program.
Which makes sense, because if you're going to drive on the interstates, that's federal. You're going from one state to another. You can't just. But I mean, like, I have an Alabama driver's license, but I drive wherever I have to go when I get on the road, because they have reciprocity for your license. But yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, the whole thing's a mess. But I've seen some videos of major accidents of guys who couldn't even read signs or talk to the police officer when they got pulled over or anything, just plowing into people. It's a mess.
It's bad out here because, like I say, us old guys and everything, we see somebody pulled alongside the road there working on it, and a lot of times they're changing tires, sitting right on the white line, we get over it, if at all possible, I'll slow down and do what I can, but you see, I'll get over in the left lane when somebody's broke down on the right shoulder, and then I'll have a truck pass between us,
Oh, wow.
So they just have no courtesy or, and somebody has been in a bad crash before and everything.
Yeah.
This is just a big no-no for me.
Yeah. Well, it absolutely, but you know what? It should be a big no-no for anybody who hauls that much freight. I mean, you guys are toting a lot of weight, and you're huge. And so the fact that you respect the road and the people on the road with you goes a long way. But if you can't read the signs, if you don't know what the rules of the road are, if you're just behind the wheel because you can, you don't even, I mean, like, I know for a fact, most companies like the one you work for actually monitor their drivers to make sure that they're getting the right amount of rest, to make sure that you're not, like, texting while you're driving, all the things that, you shouldn't be doing. And some of them even check your speed with, the systems on the truck. Am I right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They can tell you what gear I'm in, how many times I apply my brake,
Wow.
everything. It's all there. I mean, it's you can after a crash, you can dissect everything basically.
But these guys who are driving illegally, I mean, I guess, where do they get the rigs? I mean, how do they even get the jobs, for that matter? How do they get contracted to haul the freight?
Fly-by-night company that doesn't care about the rules and regulations, that just upstarts and stuff, and then they end up getting sued. But then when you get sued, if you don't have no money, then they can't get it bled out of a turnip, I don't guess. So,
well,
yeah, it's any kind of reputable company will not hire somebody like that. But like I say, it's a dog-eat-dog world out here. So everybody's trying to get that low freight and get the jobs, get the runs.
Yeah, well, no doubt. In the meantime, the rest of us need to be safe on the road, and you do the same, my friend. We have to go to the music here, but you take care, brother. We'll talk to you tomorrow. All right.
All right, buddy. You have a good one.
You too, man.
See ya.
Jeff Rowe from Indiana. All right, the music's already playing. Preacher got to quit preaching. So I will say it like I always say it. You guys, listen. There's more of us than there are of them. God is still very much on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you tomorrow.